It's Wednesday, the 20th of April 2016. This is Newsroom on SABC News, Channel 404, Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome as we broadcast live from our Auckland Park studios in Johannesburg, South Africa, to the rest of the African continent. I'm Elvis Preston. I'll be with you until 1200 hours. We're also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show now available on our YouTube channel. Now today, we look at suspected Ponzi scheme Triple M that has raised a number of questions around the legality and viability of a financial scheme that claims to offer 30% interest on investment. Our question to you of the day is, what do you make of the Triple M community investment scheme? I want to know from you on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, as well as on our Facebook page. If you like us there, you become part and parcel of the family, and we'll read your comments. But right now, let's take a look at your news headlines. The Minister of Justice, Michael Masuta, and the South African Communist Party will oppose the petition to release Chris Hani's killer, Janusz Walusz, in the North Gauteng High Court today. Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir and his 5 co-accused will know today if their leave to appeal application has been successful. And in the U.S., Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton scores big wins in the New York primary, edging them closer to winning the Republican and Democratic nominations. Now, those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, which Kendall will do, up to the sports with Kendall now to find out what's happening on the sports front as well as in the newsroom.
Very good morning to all of you, and thank you very much, Elvis. This is what we've got in the sports today.
All the aspects of a person on how a player can live a healthy lifestyle.
Footballers have been thrown a lifeline by Premier Soccer League sponsors in an initiative that should guide them throughout their careers.
We are not happy about transformation. The way you answer as if all is well with transformation.
And members of parliament impatient with the pace of transformation in rugby. And of course, Kenya's triumphant Rugby Sevens team returned home to a hero's welcome after winning the Singapore tournament in a huge upset over Fiji. That is what we've got for you in the sports. It's now time for the news. Now, the Prime Minister of Justice, Michael Masuta, and the South African Communist Party will oppose the petition to release Chris Hani's killer, Janusz Walusz, in the North Gauteng High Court today. Last week, the court judge dismissed the government's bid to appeal her ruling that Walusz could be released on parole. Masuta applied for leave to appeal the ruling just 2 days after the 23rd anniversary of the SACP's leader's assassination. Walusz, a Polish immigrant, shot Hani dead in the driveway of his Boksburg home on April 10, 1993. The SACP says Walusz was not remorseful and that he has not understood the magnitude of the crime he committed. Now, Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir and his 5 co-accused will know today if their leave to appeal application has been successful. Submissions for the application concluded yesterday in the South Gauteng High Court. The group is appealing their conviction and sentence relating to a foiled 2013 drug deal. Krejcir was handed a 35-year sentence. Krejcir's lawyer argued that his client did not receive a fair trial due to physical constraints. He also said he was not awarded enough opportunity to prepare for the trial. A lawyer for the other accused said his clients had no intention to kidnap and kill. Should the accused be denied leave to appeal, it's likely that they'll approach the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. Now to news a little further afield, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton scored big wins in the New York primary, edging them closer to winning the Republican and Democrat nominations respectively. Both candidates claimed a home state advantage and played on their strong ties to New York. Nick Harper reports from New York.
Hillary Clinton's celebration party was more like a homecoming parade.
You proved once again there's no place like home.
The former New York senator knew she had to win convincingly in her home state to keep her credibility and chances of clinching the Democrat nomination alive.
Tonight, the race for the Democratic nomination is in the home stretch and victory is in sight.
Similarly, Donald Trump scored a significant victory in the Republican contest.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, New York. We love New York. We love New York.
Trump believes he can get the magic number of 1,237 delegates, the number needed to become the Republican nominee. A big win in New York suggests he could be right.
We don't have much of a race anymore, based on what I'm seeing on television. Senator Cruz is just about mathematically eliminated.
The New York primary was all about trying to prove who was the better New Yorker. For Republicans Ted Cruz and John Kasich, that seemed to involve eating lots of diverse New York cuisine. Trump spoke about his New York values of honesty and straight talking. Hillary Clinton's competition, Bernie Sanders, played the local boy card, emphasizing his Brooklyn born and bred history. And Hillary Clinton relied on established New York State support. Many agree having a local hook helps to pull the voters in.
Very, very important, as it is for most people, whether it be by their country or by their city. There's always an affiliation, there's a loyalty, there's a sense of pride, and that holds true for Donald Trump. And despite the fact that Bernie Sanders was born here, it seems that Hillary Clinton has grabbed the mantle of the local.
A big win in the Big Apple for both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, putting them a step closer to securing their party's nomination. It now seems increasingly likely that it will be these two facing off in November's general election. But before then, more states get to have their say. And up next Tuesday, 5 Northeast states pick their candidates. Nick Harper, SABC News, New York.
Now, South Africa and Namibia have recommitted themselves to strengthening economic and political relations between the two countries. This follows a meeting between President Jacob Zuma and his Namibian counterpart, President Hage Geingob, in Windhoek. President Zuma is on a bilateral tour of the South African Customs Union member states.
A meeting of old allies. Though diplomatic relations remain as cordial as ever between the Southern African neighbors, discussions around the customs union revenue sharing formula remain a sore sticking point for Namibia. South Africa's president has been touring SACU member states in a bid to reassure them that South Africa's proposals for a rethink of the customs tariff sharing formula will not threaten the existence of the world's oldest customs union or dent the smaller economies of member states. They are heavily reliant on the customs revenues gained from export and import taxes placed on goods entering and exiting South Africa. President Zuma says lasting solutions can only be found through dialogue.
It is equally true that the struggle to change the country into prosperity is even more difficult in its own way. So when you say the struggle continues, it's absolutely true. It's a struggle that teaches new lessons as you go along. How do you manage? How do you change the quality of lives of our people, etc.?
His Namibian counterpart remains hopeful a mutually beneficial agreement can be reached.
The struggle is just starting. Economic emancipation, the second phase, that's going to be harder. First phase, we knew the enemy. This one is a little bit difficult. So since you came to talk about economic future, I thought I should introduce it that way. So welcome.
The next destination on President Jacob Zuma's tour of SACU member states will be Swaziland on Thursday. That will be followed by Lesotho. Tumalo Mushaudi, SABC News, Windhoek, Namibia.
A Free State government official has suggested the drivers of the bus which crashed on Sunday while carrying ANC volunteers should be charged with murder instead of culpable homicide. The MEC for Police, Roads and Transport, Putana Kompela, says the 10 people who were travelling from Port Elizabeth lost their lives unnecessarily.
An emotional afternoon. Families arrived at the Germiston mortuary to identify the remains of their loved ones. The 5 men and 5 women died in a bus crash on Sunday. The ANC volunteers were returning home after attending the ANC manifesto launch in Port Elizabeth. They will be laid to rest this weekend.
The deceased will be released to the various families and they'll go to the private funeral undertaker. We will do a joint memorial service and a joint funeral, except for one family that would like to bury their beloved one in KZN.
It's alleged the accident occurred when the bus drivers swapped seats while the bus was in motion.
I got almost 12 calls of people confirming that, yes, in the buses, it's a culture where when the bus is on the motion and drivers are driving on the buses. I didn't know such thing can ever happen.
However, on Sunday, the co-driver denied the allegation.
They are totally wrong. I was sitting next to the driver in the other seat. So I just see the bus lose control and going fast to the steering wheel. So these people, they just saw two drivers along the steering wheel, I think so. So they would think that they were exchanging driving while the bus is moving.
The bus drivers are expected to be charged with culpable homicide, but the Free State MEC suggested that they be charged with murder.
We cannot live on the whims of judiciary to tell us that these people have to be charged on culpable homicide. This is a blatant murder of a number of people that unnecessarily lost their life because of negligence of the drivers.
The bus company has said it will conduct its own private investigation into the cause of the accident. Hasina Gori, SABC News.
EFF leader Julius Malema has been on the campaign trail in Soweto ahead of the party's local government manifesto launch next weekend. The party has called on Parliament to be accessible to the people it represents.
Interacting with Chabulani residents ahead of the EFF's manifesto launch month-end, the party is drumming up support. Party leader Julius Malema called on Parliament to be more democratic, calling for more participation.
Why is there no item in Parliament where ordinary masses apply to come and present their cases in Parliament? You must come and tell your story on your own.
Residents add their grievances.
Leadership traumatized in the townships.
We have children who have studied, but they still can't find work.
In the run-up to the August local government elections, political parties are leaving nothing to chance. It's going to be one of the hotly contested municipal elections in the history of South Africa. SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, the son of ANC anti-apartheid struggle stalwarts Amina and Yusuf Kachalia says it was very difficult to leave his ancestral political home for the Democratic Alliance. Caleb Kachalia has joined the DA as its mayoral candidate for Ekurhuleni. He was introduced to hundreds of DA supporters at the Germiston Council Chamber.
I think I can bring that to the party.
The DA is determined to wrestle power from the ANC in all three metros in Gauteng, as well as the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro in the Eastern Cape. For the 2016 local election strategy, the party has listed businessman Herman Mashaba as its mayoral candidate for Johannesburg, and for Ekurhuleni, Caleb Kachalia, the son of ANC struggle hero Amina Kachalia.
I sought, after much introspection, which party could possibly be my political home, to face the challenges and to contribute to building our society in a way that's qualitatively different from the way it has been.
Kachalia says he is standing as its mayoral candidate for the DA, not because he is angry, but feels it's the right thing to do. He says he feels betrayed by the ANC. But the ANC in Ekurhuleni is unfazed by Kachalia's move to the DA, saying he is not known and has never led any of the party structures.
I don't know why will the DA candidate threaten the ANC. We've got a machinery here. By the way, the Kachalias that we know in the ANC, former MEC Firoz Kachalia and his brother who's a judge, they are members of the ANC. So we can't be talking about nephews and nieces and we want to make it serious and as a threat for the ANC. The ANC is a much bigger organization.
The DA will launch its 2016 local elections manifesto at the Rand Stadium in Johannesburg on Saturday.
In other stories, damage caused to metro rail infrastructure by vandals in the last 2 weeks has shot up to 70 million rand. The rail agency says vandalism, which led to a 2-hour commuter delay, could take several days to repair. Several coaches have been set alight in what Metro Rail described as a series of targeted attacks. The Cape Chamber of Commerce says the ongoing vandalism is having a negative effect on business and the people who depend on the rail service.
More than 15 carriages torched and rail infrastructure damaged in recent weeks, leaving commuters stranded and the local economy at risk. Valuable working hours are lost.
I arrived at the station around 6:52 in the morning, and I only got a train around 8:20. And you can imagine how your boss would be angry when you get to work.
The Cape Chamber of Commerce says it's tantamount to a civic emergency.
If you look at it, about 732,000 people commute a day. It's in the morning and in the evening if you divide it by 2. So if each of those are late by 1 hour, which we've heard that the people are late by 2.5 hours at times, those are the man hours that are lost. And that's amounts of money that the economy cannot afford to lose. So it must be addressed.
This is an orchestrated attempt, and I think we've seen it since 2014, sporadically, very targeted, very deliberate incidences, no loss of life, but designed to wreak maximum havoc in peak hours. So the police are investigating that and see if they can establish the pattern, but we can definitely say it's not incidental.
Transport Union Sitawu, which is locked in a labour dispute with the rail operator, has denied any involvement. Vanessa Puna, SABC News, Cape Town.
Now, the Gauteng Education Department's school admissions site is back online. The site, which also crashed last week, was supposed to go live yesterday morning. The initiative, targeting grade 1 and 8 learners, seeks to ensure that pupils are placed in a school in time for the 2017 academic year. Many frustrated parents in the province expressed their unhappiness over their malfunctioning online registration system.
Patience wearing thin. A week later, the system still failing to go live. Still offline, parents descended on the department's Johannesburg offices. It's Evelyn Makwe's second time here. Her hopes to secure a place for a child fast fading.
They keep on postponing. They said the server is still crashed. We don't know, even our children, they will have space.
But now, an assurance.
Excited to announce that the website will now formally go live.
Officials say the new server can process 20,000 registrations per second. After 10 minutes, over 5,000 relieve parents. But it's not without teething problems.
We moved to a new call center that can take 150 people. So people then should call our call center if they are facing some problems.
The Federation of Governing Bodies of South African Schools threatened to take the department to court if the system failed to go live. Parents now have until the 1st of June to register their children. They can also go to municipal libraries for internet access. Officials are confident this time around the system won't crash, but they are asking for patience. Angoba Mkunu, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Lonmin Platinum mine workers at Marikana are questioning the process which was used to identify beneficiaries in the new multi-million rand housing project in the area. They were served with eviction notices yesterday and have until next week to vacate their houses, but they refused to do so.
Determined Marikana workers and residents are digging their heels in.
There is no one who's going to evict me in my house. There is nowhere I will go. I will stay here with my family.
The construction of the multi-million rand housing project aimed at addressing local housing shortage, now at the center of the dispute.
We are not leaving the houses. Where should I go? I'm unemployed and I have a child.
Over 100 houses have been illegally occupied. They were meant for all those in need of proper accommodation. But months of negotiations have not yielded any positive results. After being issued with eviction notices, workers marched to the local police station where they set the eviction notices on fire. Government says it will forge ahead with the evictions despite the demonstrations. These residents, who many of them are mine workers at Lonmin, insist they are not going to vacate these houses. They maintain it is through the 2012 industrial action which led to the construction of this housing settlement. Selwa Tatai, SABC News, Marikana.
And that's it for now from the news desk. Elvis?
Thank you, Kendall. Now, yesterday we asked you that all-important question about the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, and the question that we ask, is there a need for a second Truth and Reconciliation Commission, rather, and is there a time for a second TRC right now? And this is what you had to say. Remember that you can also send us your new comments today on the question that we posed to you on Triple M. Now let's take a look at some of your comments on the TRC yesterday. Well, it doesn't seem like that comments is on the TRC today. Well, our comment of today comes from Roy Africa. Daryl at Bad Boy GPZ says, this should be a new challenge on power couple. Ain't nobody winning any money now. This was in reference to the power couple winner not being able to log on to the Gauteng school admission system. Now, as you see, that was yesterday. And today's picture of today is sponsored by Roy Africa, and it comes from Zenzile Kumalo at ZK Kumalo says, thank you at Lesotho for the epic fail, hashtag epic fail at admissions 2017. Also, that was yesterday. The department was quick to solve the problem, and as you know, that system is currently up and running, and we'll give you an update on that situation on the system. We also had a story a little bit earlier that indicated the frustration that some of the parents are feeling here in Gauteng, but we do believe that the system is up and running, and we'll get an update on that for you as well during the course of the program. But let's now take a look at what's happening in the news today. Judgment in the leave to appeal application of Czech fugitive Radovan Kriča and 5 co-defendants will be handed down in a high court in Johannesburg today. In February, they were sentenced on charges ranging from attempted murder, drug dealing and kidnapping. Kriča was handed a 35-year sentence, as you can recall. And then 3 men accused of killing businessman Wandile Bozwana will appear again in court at the Kgosi Mampuru prison in Pretoria today. Bozwana died in hospital after he was ambushed in what is believed here on the N1 Garsfontein off-ramp. The 43-year-old Bozwana was hit by at least 9 bullets. His companion, who was hit twice, survived the attack. And then 17 suspects are to appear today at the Upongolo Magistrates Court on charges of illegal mining and trespassing at the disused Klipval gold mine in far northern KwaZulu-Natal. The majority of the suspects, who are Mozambican and Lesotho nationals, were arrested from late March for illegal mining and for being in the country illegally. Those are what's happening currently around South Africa and in your courts. Let's now take a look at some of the front pages of the newspapers from around the globe, and we're starting off in Europe. The Times report that the European Union was wrong to have meddled in people's daily lives. Its most senior figure admitted yesterday as he pleaded with voters not to wreck the bloc's ideal. It says there we meddle in affairs of the EU. Now moving to the United States, the USA Today says that the Houston area continued to recover Tuesday after historic flooding swept across southeast Texas, leaving at least 7 people dead and at least 1,000 homes swamped. Innocents at risk, it says there in the front page. And then finally, staying in New York, the Wall Street Journal there reports that Republican Donald Trump swept to a resounding victory yesterday in the New York presidential primary, propelling him closer to the GOP nomination and making it far harder for his rivals to block his path. Trump's post big wins in New York, it states there in the Wall Street Journal. Now, those are all the headlines in the newspapers from around the globe. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back right after that with our discussion point of the day on the financial investment scheme Triple M. We want your thoughts on that. What do you make of the investment scheme? There is the website. You can take a look at it as well. And it says they're big, 30% per month. That is some of what you can earn from this scheme. And it says, attention, But look at the warning at the bottom as well. So there you have it. We'll come back to you after that in a short while.
The deepening hunger crisis in Malawi is threatening the survival of children.
And also it is the life-threatening part of malnutrition.
Malawi is facing its worst food crisis in 9 years.
Mugabe is the world's oldest sitting head of state, ahead of Queen Elizabeth of Britain.
The veteran leader seeks to temporarily forget his party's problems and instead focus on his legacy.
But he shows no sign of slowing down or stepping down from power after 36 years in office.
Now, today we ask you that question, of course, on the screen, on your screen. You can do it right now. You can see it there. What do you make of the Triple M scheme? You can let us know what's on your mind on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, as well as on the Facebook page. There is the website of Triple M as well, the Triple M community. Now, representatives of the alleged global Ponzi scheme known as Triple M are defiant. They refute reports that the multi-million rand scheme has collapsed. Today, hundreds of people who invested their money gathered, in fact, that was last week, they gathered in Durban, in the Durban CBD, with financial experts have cautioned against this particular scheme.
Tobile Makanya is an unemployed graduate. She's married and has 2 children. Makanya says with the money she gets from Triple M, she's able to support her family.
Today I can go to the shops and buy things for my children. I have a house and can now manage my home.
The headquarters of Triple M are in Russia. Thousands of South Africans are alleged to have put their money into the get-rich-quick scheme, initially promising 100% return on investment in 30 days. The scheme says it now gives 30%. Its directors say they create wealth for their members and have refuted reports that the scheme has crashed.
Only us, or only those who are members of Triple 100, when you log in, you were notified that even before they started 100%, we had told, guys, this is the try and error method. When I try the system, we are going to see that it works with us or not. If it doesn't work, we're going back to our 30%. We have been notified, guys, this is not working. This is like the system is loaded in 100%. And then all those who had money there, they've been moved to 30% according to their countries, because we're doing it international with Bitcoins.
But there are still some skeptics.
Our people have suffered too much and are desperate to escape poverty. So when someone comes with a quick get-rich system scheme, they flood it. But often there's a trap and someone is using them to get rich.
Concerns about the controversial scheme prompted a probe by the National Consumer Commission, and the Hawks are also investigating. While its clients remain firm in their support of the scheme, most do accept there are risks involved. Aina Mhlongo, SABC News, Durban.
Now, recent reports about the alleged collapse of the suspected Ponzi scheme, the global one, Triple M, have brought the issue of the overstretched middle class to the fore. Now, this as the majority of the working class are reportedly investing in the scheme. Despite the allegations against Triple M, which claims to offer 30% interest on investments, its representatives this week converged at Gugu Dlamini Park, as you just saw there in the Durban CBD, to share their success stories and to give clarity on how the scheme operates. A group calling themselves Triple M RSA Community last week decided to file an application in the High Court in South Africa to approach the court for clarity on whether Triple M is indeed a Ponzi or pyramid scheme as alleged. Joining us now in our Pretoria studios is Dion J. van Rensburg. Now, he is a representative of Triple M RSA Community who have lodged the High Court bid. A very good morning to you, Mr. van Rensburg, and welcome.
Morning, Elvis. Thanks for the invitation to appear.
Now, first and foremost, tell us about Triple M RSA Community and how it was conceived.
Well, Elvis, to understand where MMM fits into the scheme of things, one has to go a little bit back and understand that the internet has changed all our lives. And an alternative economy and an alternative financial system, an alternative socio-economic system is developed on the internet. People are sick and tired and fed up with the established and traditional economic and financial system which have failed them. Oxfam filed their report on the first for the year 2015 in the beginning of this year, and they so aptly called that economy an economy for the 1%. Mm-hmm. And the rest is feeding into this economy to make the 1% rich. The 1% over the last 5 years increased their wealth by $1.5 trillion, whereas the bottom 3.75 billion people in this world have lost $5.3 trillion, became poorer by the amount of $5.3 trillion. Mm-hmm. And people in their droves are fleeing into this alternative economy, which now is growing by more than 100% per annum. It's got its own currency, it's got its own banking system, and it's got its own socio-economic systems by which it assists people who aren't helped by the traditional economy. I want to say this, that within that environment, MMM was created to assist people. The so-called financial experts refer to this as an investment scheme, which is completely wrong and untrue. It's a system of mutual donation exchange. And the 30% that they so aptly refer to as a return on investment is merely a growth on the rewards that people earn by donating people that are in need of assistance.
Okay, now that is what I want to understand, that 30%. So, yeah. If an investor puts in 1,000 rand, he gets a 30% return in 30 days, according to the website. Is that correct?
No, there is no investors in MMM. There's only donors. Mm-hmm. That is what I think we have to understand the principle. Okay. I donate people money to somebody that is in need of some assistance. That donation of mine is, I then receive a reward of Mavros, which is a reward system for having assisted somebody. And that is merely to encourage people to assist other people who are in need. And that rewards at this point in time is growing at 30%. But there's no guarantee that it grows to 30%. There's also no guarantee at all on that website. And people are warned very explicitly that by donating money doesn't entitle you to receive help when you may request for help at a later stage. That depends on the people that are running the system. Or not running the system, that is partaking in the system. Because this is a computer platform. There's nobody that runs the system. It's a computer program that manages the system. So, and if I donate money, it doesn't go into a central bank account or to a bank account of a schemester. On that system, if I offer to donate money, I can see exactly to whom I'm giving the money. I've got a bank account wherein I pay that money that belongs to that person.
Now, I want to understand this. So the money that you donate, as you say, it's not investment, it's donate to somebody. Yeah. It doesn't go into a central bank account, it goes to a particular person. How do you then get that 30% back? And you say it's not guaranteed, but how do you get your money back? And how are you ensure that you will get that 1,000 rand back if you don't get your interest in it, on it?
But I am not ensured that I will get that 1,000 rand back. If I travel this morning, which I did, and I passed a crossing at a robot, and there was somebody standing begging for money, and I gave him 10 rand. There's no way, sir, I can go back tomorrow to that person and says, give back my 10 rand. I've given it to him. I've donated it to him. And that is, I think, what the majority of people in this system that is against and attacking the system doesn't understand. But the participants in the system clearly understand that. Now, if by in a month or two I run into some trouble and I request some help, the computer will connect me with somebody who is prepared to assist me.
So, if you put in money...
It's a system, therefore, of mutual donation exchange.
So if you put in money, be aware that you will not be able to get it back. That is essentially what you say. So
of course.
Yes.
Of course.
So if you put in 20,000 rand, don't even expect to get it back. But there is a possibility or a probability that somebody will assist you.
Correct. And that is what the website clearly warns. If you join, there is the conditions, and you've got to tick that block to say that you've read the conditions and that you understand them. Now, a lot of criticism is leveled against MMM that it is allegedly
a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme.
Exploiting the poor and the illiterate. Let me make a comment on that. If you are literate enough to be able to surf the web and to navigate your way around on the internet and to be able to read and understand what you're doing, you certainly don't qualify to be illiterate. And MMM, and there's huge, many examples of where MMM is assisting communities, the very poor, through donations to churches and church groups and social groups. But you see, at the heart of this is this alternative economy, this alternative way of living. We're conducting workshops to tell people to get off the financial grid. A so-called expert on one of the media, internet media sites, which I won't mention the name, last week questioned this 30% and said, money doesn't grow on trees.
Yes.
Well, she's absolutely right. Money doesn't grow on trees. But what she clearly, by saying that, exposed herself is that she hasn't got a clue where money comes from. Money is created out of thin air.
Okay,
the banks create 900 rand for every 100 rand that is deposited with them. Just last week, the Reserve Bank created in excess of 18 billion rand out of thin air when it floated a bond on the European market for 1.25 billion euros.
Now, Mr. Van
that
Rensburg,
money is created out of thin air.
But let me come to you on this point. You and a number of your participants now have taken the matter to the High Court to seek clarity on whether or not this Triple M is an alternative system, as you indicate, or whether it's a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme. Why do you need clarity from the court?
Well, because we are aware and we have written to the National Consumer Council to get clarity on the basis of which they have determined that this is a pyramid scheme. And let me just say one thing. The Consumer Protection Act doesn't refer to a Ponzi scheme at all. In section 43.3, 44.4 and 43.5, it only refers to pyramid schemes, multiplication schemes and chain letter schemes. Now, they're not clear as to what they've actually classified that, but that's on the one hand in January. On the other hand, they say that, sorry, we lack the capacity to fully investigate this, and that's why we've made a statement to the Hawks. Now, how can you classify something as being in contravention with the law when, on the other hand, you admit by yourself that you haven't got the capacity to investigate that?
Now, reports suggest... Yes. Continue quickly on that point.
Well, then again, the Hawks come and they say, now they're investigating it, and they've solicited the assistance of a number of specialty organizations, and then the spokesman comes and says, our biggest problem is we don't have a complainant. Okay, and we beg people to come and complain.
Now,
does that make sense to you that the police will now spend millions of rand to investigate something without a complainant?
Now, Mr. van Rensburg, reports suggest, though, that M Global, that promised 100% return on investment, closed its doors. Are you not perhaps concerned that it would have an impact on investors here in South Africa?
No, not at all. I think whatever, and I must say that I object to the term investors. Let's refer to them as donors. It has an impact on donors when they are threatened that what they are doing may be illegal. And that has prompted us to approach the High Court and say, well, this is what it is. Let's look at Section 43.3, let's look at Section 44.4, and let's look at Section 43.5 and compare what MMM is to those sections, and then let's decide whether this is in actual fact fall foul of any one of those three sections. But I want to make this point, that Section 43 classifies a scheme, if it offers more than 20% above the repo rate, then it is a pyramid scheme. Well, then I want to know whether the Consumer Council, the National Consumer Council, will investigate Netflix, Google, Microsoft, Walmart, who offers on investors on internet royalties up to 80% per month. Okay. And if you want to invest that, you're welcome to contact me and I'll show you, I'll put you in touch how you can buy an internet royalty investment.
Mr. van Rensburg, unfortunately, that's where we got to leave with Mr. van Rensburg. Thank you so much for your time and joining us in our Pretoria studios.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
That was Dion J. van Rensburg. He is a representative of the M RSA community. Now, they've launched, as you heard there, their application to the High Court to get clarity on whether or not it's a Ponzi scheme or not, or a, as he called it, an alternative investment fund. Now, M investment scheme is under investigation by the Hawks after it collapsed in Russia. Remember that you can also send us your comments at SABC Newsroom. So let's take a look at what you have to say about this. There you have some of the comments there. This one from Pes Motobi. He says, now I want to know, honestly, how is the M a pyramid, a Ponzi scheme, when I came across police officers, ETL, checking out their balances? I promise you, Pes Motobi, says that police officers are also in there. Kahile says, at the city, this persistent friend is trying to recruit me into joining the M Ponzi scheme. I don't play like that, says Kahile. This one from Sibusiso says, government, why are you investigating M and not the South African banks? Because they are the biggest pyramid schemes in the country, so claims Sibusiso Kumalo. Mo says, before we chastise the corporates for not reinvesting in our economy, Wena, would you invest in a pyramid scheme? And I'm not talking to M people. Well, Mo asked the question. Ndabentle says, do you know of that M money-making scheme and whether it's trustworthy or not? Well, we're investigating like the Hawks, Ndabentle. Those are some of your comments. You can keep them coming right here on our Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. You can also like us on the Facebook page. If you like us there, you become part and parcel of the Informed here on Newsroom. Now, let's take a look at what is happening on our Facebook page. On the Facebook page there, you can see the Mineral Resources Minister, Mozabenzi Zwane, that has appealed to the mining industry to use retrenchments as a last resort. Also on the Facebook page, South Africa imported white maize from the United States last week for the first time since 2004. That's the country's Grain Information Services, SAGIS, said yesterday. And aspiring chartered accountants in KwaZulu-Natal now have another option other than joining an accountancy firm. They can obtain their qualifications while working for the KZN Treasury. Now, those are some of the Facebook page matters that's arising. For more news and updates, you can follow us on Facebook. Just type in there, Newsroom. If you type it in, you'll find it on the Facebook page. Now, we'll take a quick break, and after that, we'll investigate further into the M alternative financial scheme, as Mr. Dion van Rensburg indicated to us. And it's not donors. It's not investors, he says. He claims it is donors that participate in the scheme. So, we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back after that.
In our next segment, we explore exciting cultural festivities in India.
The 10-day festival witnessed a large congregation of women at a temple. As per the annual ritual, women cook an offering of a sweet dish.
And the health department all are giving the warmful supports for the Pongala.
Magazine Vogue celebrated its centenary by bringing enthusiasts and supporters from far and wide.
An exhibition of fashion, beauty and portrait prints.
We wanted to show our original vintage photographs. We didn't really want to do, modern prints.
Now, the furore around the suspected Ponzi scheme, Triple M, has raised a number of questions around the legality and the viability of a financial scheme that claims to offer 30% interest on investment to its investments. We were rectified. We were told it's not interest. It is rather something that you get back in return. But the question then is there a difference between a Ponzi, a pyramid scheme, and a stokvel, or this particular one, which the representative called an alternative financial system? Now, to discuss this and other factors, we are joined by the market analyst, Clive Ramatibela-Smith, and the Chief Investment Officer at Clivera Incorporated. A very good morning to you.
Lots of good morning to you, my brother. I hope you're well.
Well, you must be a Triple M investor because you're very happy this morning. Maybe you got something back in return.
What was that? No. I mean, this is quite incredible. I mean, the fact that people are still very much interested in this particular investment, and they're so adamant. They say it's more difficult to get somebody off Triple M, to convince them to get off Triple M, than it is to convince them to get rid of their taxes. So for me, that means that these people must be doing relatively well. But we know that. Yeah.
But 30% return on investment, Clive, is that even a reality here in South Africa?
We're not even talking 30% returns here. We're talking about a ridiculous amount of money, which there is no trace, there's no track record, there's no bank account. Apparently, it's in Russia, I'm told. So, I mean, how do you even trace? The minute there's no track record, the minute there's no banking transactions, it means that we are talking about something that is floating in the air, and we are hoping that it works. And obviously, with pyramid schemes and Ponzi schemes, obviously the guys that get involved and that recruit the most then obviously make some sort of returns. But is it sustainable? That's the problem. The minute it starts to collapse, the minute the guys at the top are enjoying themselves, the guys at the bottom always fall short, and that's when the trouble starts.
Mm-hmm. Now, the representative earlier called it an alternative financial scheme, but how legal is Triple M, who pride itself as a community who provide assistance to each other? Are they perhaps blessers in disguise?
I'm not going to mention anything about blessers, but I can tell you this. If they were very much legal and they wanted to become legal, that's very easy. Like any other financial instrument, any other financial provider, they need to register with the Financial Services Board. They need to have the registration number. They have to have an FSP number. Or if they want to become a stokvel, they must register as an organization, which is a stokvel, which is how stokvels work. That's why now there's a registrar for stokvels as well. The problem is that when we promise people 30% of returns, regulation does not allow for us, even in the financial sector, to promise people or lure people using returns. Because the truth of the matter is, in the markets, we have this very nice wording that we have that explains exactly what the markets are all about. We say that past performances are not indicative of future returns. And that is so true, because you can never take history and say, because in history we did well, it's going to do well in the future. That's why we're not allowed to give sound advice. You can't even tell people to invest in something because it guarantees them this amount of return. Unless obviously it's a banknote. That's a completely different product. But you can't give people that promises. The reason why we say this is a luring, a Ponzi scheme, is because they lure people by telling them that they're actually going to get returns of 30%. How do they get that 30%? It is not explained. We don't even know. So it's reliant on how these people recruit other people to do the same thing so that they can actually have the 30% return, if at all they get it. And when you start to withdraw the money, when you want to withdraw, and then they say, no, you have to make the last order, you have to do this, you have to invest more, that's when there's a problem. And we hear a lot of these complaints that people have difficulty withdrawing as opposed to when they put their money in and invest.
Well, we heard from the representative, there's a big warning on the website that tell you that you should not expect that money to come back to you. But if people can earn 30% interest per month from a community that assists them, and our banks cannot even give them 10% per year, is that not perhaps time that our banks review their business model to assist the people on the ground and forget about profit before community financial emancipation?
I mean, where the 30%, Elvis, we have to be very honest, and that is why I'm passionate about this. I'm very saddened because of lack of financial literacy, people are always taken about and they lose their monies. We've had people who sell them trading software. We've had people who promise them returns of up to 50%. Just in reality, like you were saying, the banks can only give you, if you're fortunate, something like 10%. And by the way, we have to take into consideration inflation. So if you take inflation as it is currently at 6.2, you take that away, that means you're left with 3.8% on an annual basis. That is the most you can get from the bank. How do you get 30% without investing in equities, without investing on the stock market? It beats me. This alternative investment, if it could be explained appropriately, maybe people would believe in it. If it was gold, you could say it's value added, so it's value that's been earned over a period of time. If it was shoes even, if you're buying shoes for the community, then it would make sense because you'd say these shoes over time have got some value, you know? But now you're talking about 30%. I don't know where you drag it from. I don't know where do I get it from. The only way that you're explaining it to me is that I have to give more money. So people have to be very, very aware. Statistics South Africa, Elvis, says that up to 16.5% of people, only actually 16.5% of people know about financial literacy. Let us empower our people so that they don't get lured into these barbaric ways of investing that can put them into a worse situation than they have. And I don't blame them. It's because of frustration of the fact that we're not earning enough money at retirement for us to be living comfortably. And that's why these become alternative ways of investing.
Clive, we wish we had some more time with you to discuss this, but unfortunately we've run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us in the discussion. That was Clive Ramatibela-Smith, Market Analyst and Chief Investment Officer at Olivera Incorporated. Right now, the weather is up next to give you an indication whether it is hot or not in the financial world, but maybe on the weather front.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, let's take a look at your weather. And as usual, we start off with a cloud update. Well, this is what's been going on over the last few hours. First of all, we have seen a lot of cloud discovered in a dense band all the way throughout South Africa's central regions here. Now, what we're also seeing is, of course, that supercell, that very dense band of cloud cover, very dense cell of cloud cover. In fact, that tropical cyclone has been acting on the northern parts of Madagascar. Now, what this means is that we're seeing some rainfall in the area. It really isn't affecting it too much. It is bringing rainfall and high wind speeds into the area, but really not damaging as yet. Now, what we have seen is a lot of rainfall all the way throughout South Africa, Southern Africa's northern regions here, extending towards Central Africa and up towards Addis Ababa and the surrounding regions. For today, what we're expecting for South Africa is, well, for the most of South Africa, we're expecting at least isolated showers. Now, that extends all the way through Namibia into tomorrow, down again towards South Africa's central regions, and it intensifies. We're going to see South Africa's central interior expecting about a 60% chance of showers, as well as another lower pressure system. You can just see that pressure system making its way through South Africa's southern parts there. That's going to bring in isolated to scattered showers and cooler conditions as well. So let's take a look in a little bit more detail at what's going on. Cape Town peaks at 22 degrees for today. Cloud cover expected throughout almost the entire southern African region. And indeed, we're expecting a warm day despite this in Uppington, 31 degrees, Pretoria, 29 degree maximums. Windhoek peaks at 30 degrees, and it's going to continue to be a warm one in Lusaka and Lilongwe, 27-degree maximums for both of these areas. Showers returning to Dar es Salaam, 32-degree high there. Dense cloud cover forecast over the area as well, and that's all brought in by lower pressure systems, of course, and that is acting on the area. Now, we're also seeing rainfall in Mogadishu, a 32-degree maximum there. These rains continue all the way through towards Djibouti. They're 32-degree highs. Sana'a at 26. Now, Khartoum, nothing surprising there. Sunny and 41-degree maximums. But temperatures definitely rising steadily in Tehran there. 22-degree highs. We're seeing a clear day there. No more rainfall for Tehran and no more rainfall today for Mecca. Both of these areas yesterday experiencing just a little bit of rainfall there. Take a look at Cairo, 37-degree highs. It has risen substantially in the past week, so definitely seeing some higher temperatures there. Benghazi at 34, Tripoli 26. And of course, as we move further and further west, we're going to see the effects of lower pressure systems in Rabat as well as Algiers. 18 and 22-degree highs, both expecting isolated to scattered showers and relatively high wind speeds forecast, at least for Rabat for today. Las Palmas peaks at 19 degrees, and moving further south along the same coastline, we're going to see warmer temperatures there. Naucot peaks at a 37-degree high, Dakar 25, and sunny skies extending all the way from here into the interior, with temperatures ranging in the interior from 43 to 46 degrees. An absolute scorcher there in Niamey. It is a very, very hot one. Conakry and Monrovia both expecting a bit of rainfall, but that doesn't quite make it towards Lagos for today. A 33-degree high, a dry one as well. That all changes, though, of course, as we move back towards Central Africa's western regions. Lots and lots of cloud cover here. Rainfall throughout almost the entire area. And we're going to see temperatures peaking nice and warm in Bangui, a 37-degree high. That means we're going to see some very, very high levels of humidity. That's where we leave your weather for now. Stay tuned.
Health Talk looks into incorrect lifestyles that lead to chronic diseases. It is extremely important to take care of our bodies to a long, healthy life.
Incorrect eating and being inactive then leads to the person becoming overweight and obese.
The kidney is one of the essential organs of our bodies. It keeps us healthy and extracts toxins from our blood.
The kidney controls the blood pressure. Right. And if the blood pressure is not normal, then your heart is affected and all the blood vessels in your body is affected.
Dialysis is the only solution to kidney failure. The support of the family is crucial.
What made it possible for me is to accept that I've got kidney failure.
Join your host, Dr. Sidla Mudawung, every Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m. Pilong, we celebrate those who take strides doing good and changing the world.
I really think that education has to be revisited, and it's an integral part of teaching young people skills of the future.
There's always light at the end of the tunnel.
I think that the treatment should be made available, actually, because it's costly. Growth hormones are very, very costly.
Where there is a challenge, we bring hope.
I'm alive. And the brain tumor is gone.
Join your host Buleng Malabati every Friday at 17:30 for more uplifting stories.
Technology isn't all scary. There's also fun stuff like gaming.
Lots of women do play games, whether it's on their phones or their tablets.
Then there are Africans who are using new tools to make other people's lives much easier.
We typed the whole CV on a small, QWERTY Nokia phone.
For all these and other technology and social media news, join me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC News.
It's Wednesday, the 20th of April 2016. This is Newsroom on SABC News, Channel 404, Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome to the second hour as we broadcast live from our Auckland Park studios, Johannesburg, to the rest of the African continent. I'm Elvis Preston. I'll be with you until 12. We're also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. Now today, we look at suspected Ponzi scheme Triple M that has raised a number of questions around the legality and the viability of a financial scheme that claims to offer 30% interest on investment to its investors. And they say it's not an investment. No, they say it's a donation. Our question of the day is, what do you make of the Triple M Community Investment Scheme, or alternative scheme, as some called it? Send us your comments to the Facebook page at Weekend Now, at SABC Newsroom. You can also like us on the Facebook page, and you can see all the comments there. But first, let's take a look at your news headlines. The Minister of Justice, Michael Masuta, and the South African Communist Party will oppose the petition to release Chris Hani's killer, Janus Wallach, in the North Gauteng High Court today. Czech fugitive Radovan Kriča and his 5 co-accused will know today if their leave to appeal application has been successful. And in the United States, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton scored big wins in the New York primary, edging them closer to winning the Republican and Democrat nominations. As they run towards the White House there, let's come back home and look at the sports news and what's running on the sports field with Kendall Makamate. A very good morning to you.
Elvis, good morning to you. It's been quite an interesting morning, hasn't it? I love that chart that you had in the last bulletin. Oh, yeah. But yeah, it was a very good one, very informative for all of our viewers and for me as well. I'm not a member of Triple M, I'll have you know. Good morning to you. This is what we've got in sports today.
It covers all the aspects of a person on how a player can live a healthy lifestyle.
Footballers have been thrown a lifeline by Premier Soccer League sponsors in an initiative that should guide them throughout their careers.
We are not happy about transformation. The way you answer as if all is well with transformation.
And members of parliament impatient with the pace of transformation in rugby. And of course, Kenya's triumphant Rugby Sevens team return home to a hero's welcome after winning the Singapore tournament in a huge upset over Fiji. That's where we're going to leave it for now, but at 10:20 I'll be back with more. Now time for the news.
And I'm sure as the team landed there, Kendall, in Kenya, everybody screamed, Jumbo Africa. There we have it. Top story this morning. The Minister of Justice, Michael Masuta, and the South African Communist Party will oppose the petition to release Chris Hani's killer, Janus Wallach, in North Gauteng High Court today. Last week, the court judge dismissed government's bid to appeal her ruling that Wallach could be released on parole. Masuta applied for leave to appeal the ruling just 2 days after the 23rd anniversary of the SACP's leader's assassination. Wallach, a Polish immigrant, shot Hani dead in the driveway of his Boksburg home on April the 10th, 1993. The South African Communist Party says Wallach was not remorseful and that he has not understood the magnitude of the crime that he committed. Still in the courts, Czech fugitive Radovan Kriča and his 5 co-accused will know today if their leave to appeal application has been successful. Submissions for the application concluded yesterday in the South Gauteng High Court. The group is appealing their conviction and sentence relating to a foiled 2013 drug deal. Kriča was handed a 35-year sentence. Kriča's lawyer argued that his client did not receive a fair trial due to physical constraints. He also said he was not awarded enough opportunity to prepare for the trial. A lawyer for the other accused said his clients had no intention to kidnap and kill. Should the accused be denied leave to appeal, it is likely that they will approach the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. We will cross there live to the court as soon as the court starts, so you have to stay tuned right here on your favorite channel of choice, Channel 404, your favorite program, Newsroom. To the U.S. now, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton scored big wins in the Big Apple in New York in the primaries there, edging them closer to winning the Republican and Democratic nominations. Both candidates claimed a home state advantage and played on their strong ties in New York. Nick Harper reports from New York.
Hillary Clinton's celebration party was more like a homecoming parade.
You proved once again there's no place like home.
The former New York senator knew she had to win convincingly in her home state to keep her credibility and chances of clinching the Democrat nomination alive.
Tonight, the race for the Democratic nomination is in the home stretch and victory is in sight.
Similarly, Donald Trump scored a significant victory in the Republican contest.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, New York. We love New York. We love New York.
Trump believes he can get the magic number of 1,237 delegates, the number needed to become the Republican nominee. A big win in New York suggests he could be right.
We don't have much of a race anymore, based on what I'm seeing on television. Senator Cruz is just about mathematically eliminated.
The New York primary was all about trying to prove who was the better New Yorker. For Republicans Ted Cruz and John Kasich, that seemed to involve eating lots of diverse New York cuisine. Trump spoke about his New York values of honesty and straight talking. Hillary Clinton's competition, Bernie Sanders, played the local boy card, emphasizing his Brooklyn born and bred history. And Hillary Clinton relied on established New York State support. Many agree having a local hook helps to pull the voters in.
Very, very important, as it is for most people, whether it be by their country or by their city. There's always an affiliation, there's a loyalty, there's a sense of pride, and that holds true for Donald Trump. And despite the fact that Bernie Sanders was born here, it seems that Hillary Clinton has grabbed the mantle of the local.
A big win in the Big Apple for both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, putting them a step closer to securing their party's nomination. It now seems increasingly likely that it will be these two facing off in November's general election. But before then, more states get to have their say. And up next Tuesday, 5 Northeast states pick their candidates. Nick Harper, SABC News, New York.
South Africa and Namibia have recommitted themselves to strengthening economic and political relations between the two countries. This follows a meeting between President Jacob Zuma and his Namibian counterpart, President Hage Geingob, in Windhoek. President Zuma is on a bilateral tour of the South African Customs Union member states.
A meeting of old allies. Though diplomatic relations remain as cordial as ever between the Southern African neighbors, discussions around the customs union revenue sharing formula remain a sore sticking point for Namibia. South Africa's president has been touring SACU member states in a bid to reassure them that South Africa's proposals for a rethink of the customs tariff sharing formula will not threaten the existence of the world's oldest customs union or dent the smaller economies of member states. They are heavily reliant on the customs revenues gained from export and import taxes placed on goods entering and exiting South Africa. President Zuma says lasting solutions can only be found through dialogue.
It is equally true that the struggle to change the country into prosperity is even more difficult in its own way. So when you say the struggle continues, it's absolutely true. It's a struggle that teaches new lessons as you go along. How do you manage? How do you change the quality of lives of our people, etc.?
His Namibian counterpart remains hopeful a mutually beneficial agreement can be reached.
The struggle is just starting. Economic emancipation, the second phase, that's going to be harder. First phase, we knew the enemy. This one is a little bit difficult. So since you came to talk about economic future, I thought I should introduce it that way. So welcome.
The next destination on President Jacob Zuma's tour of SACU member states will be Swaziland on Thursday. That will be followed by Lesotho. Tumalo Mohlaudi, SABC News, Windhoek, Namibia.
Now, as promised, let's now cross live to the South Gauteng High Court, where the Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir and his 5 co-accused will know today if their leave to appeal application has been successful.
While we wait for them, can you just tell me what the position is with the matter?
Mrs. Malot, I've been requested by the Royal Planner to have this matter adjourned until next Thursday, the 28th of April. A judge will be allocated to deal with the matter by then, but it's just a provisional date on the 28th, and then the matter might have to start the day thereafter. Malot. They are back here in the South Gauteng. Rather Gauteng local division, not in Palm Beach, but the Johannesburg High Court on the 28th.
So the trial will continue
Most
in
probably
close proximity to 28th day?
To 29th, the following day.
Or 29th.
That's correct, man. All 5 accused, my lord, are in custody. There is no bail as a court basis.
My lord, I confirm the arrangement that the matter will be postponed provisionally for the 28th. May I please mention that I'm not available on the 28th. Mr. Alexander has indicated that he will stand in for me until the next day or the date that the trial will proceed.
Well, as long as someone comes who's appearing for the relevant accused who has authority to deal with the matter.
As it pleases the court, my lord, but I confirm the arrangement.
Yeah, so it's not going to run then, it will run the next day within close proximity.
Yes, indeed, sir.
Okay, so you're ready to carry on?
Indeed, sir, my lord.
I likewise confirm the arrangement.
And you're ready to carry
Likewise,
on?
my lord.
Right. On this matter, there is to be a remand until Thursday, the 28th April 2016. On that date, the matter will be called and will be allocated to proceed in close proximity to that date, perhaps on the 29th April. The state and the defence are ready to proceed. And the matter will proceed in this court, not in Palm Ridge.
Nge-28 imanifika ke nizobizwa ningene liseliyahlehliswa lihlehliselwa ngakusasa wakhona nge-29 njengoba nge-28 ke selizothola ke ujaji walo ukuthi no linikezwa uphi ujaji nge-29 kusho ukuthi ke seliyaqala manje ukuthi iyakhuluma nge-29 langalandelayo ngokusho kwabameli labali babona bekhona besukuma kanjalo bonke nje bavumelana naleyo ndaba nalehlelo lelo ukuthi kunjalo bathembisa ukuthi no nabo bazabe bekhona ke selizimisele ukuthi ke bazoqhubeka nge-29 mangabe ke kuzawuqhubekwa njengoba kubekwa ukuthi nge-29 lizawuqhubeka kepha nge-28 nizobuya nize futhi
hayi le judge kodwa.
My Lord, is your Lordship not going to be the presiding officer in this matter?
No.
Oh. Thank you very much. We can go.
Yeah. Monday, the accused number 3 had certain issues regarding his attention at criminal experts, and he's actually indicated to me that he's reduced it to writing. Might just be allowed to collect these presentations on writing before they go down. In order to address issues therein if need be.
So in this order, I make the following matter. The matter is remanded until 28th April 2016. All the accused are to remain in custody. The matter will proceed in close proximity to that date. Right. So the accused may go down.
As we wait for the court to proceed, the Czech fugitive Radovan Krejča and his 5 co-accused did get to know what is their fate. They'll have to wait another week for the court to proceed. That case was remanded until the 28th of April to find out whether or not they have leave to appeal in the High Court there. Now, as you know, the group is appealing their conviction and their sentence relating to a foiled 2013 drug deal. Krejča was handed a 35-year sentence. His lawyers argued that his client did not receive a fair trial due to physical constraints. He also said that he was not awarded enough opportunity to prepare for the trial. Let's go back to the court now.
026 of 2014 State versus Radovan Krejča and 5 others. The appearances are still as in before. We're ready to proceed.
Yes. In this matter, the 6 accused apply for leave to appeal against both the conviction and sentence. Accused 3 to 6, as part of the applications for leave to appeal, apply in terms of Section 316, bracket 5 and 6 of the Criminal Procedure Act 51 of 1977, that certain evidence which was admitted and produced during the sentence proceedings be considered as part of the evidence, and that its impact upon the application, its impact upon the evidence of one Lukele be taken into account in the appeal. That evidence is contained within an exhibit SP7, which was handed up during the course of sentencing proceedings. Exhibit SP7 constitutes a victim impact report of Becky Temba Lukele, which was compiled by one Ms. Bongiwe Dube. Within that report, the Mr. Lukele, who I refer to as the victim, was recorded as having said, in relation to the events surrounding his kidnapping, that, open inverted commas, the victim reported that Mr. Mofo King showed him SAPS identity card and instructed him to open the gate, which he did. Close inverted commas. There were other incidental matters which were raised and which appear in paragraph 8 of the application of the applicants. At the time the document was admitted in evidence, the state and the defense agreed that the facts contained within the document were true and correct, that the opinions were properly made, and that the opposite opinion had been applied. During the course of the submissions made by the accused 3 to 6, counsel for them submitted that the evidence was common cause by reason of the admission which had been made, and that in fact he did not really need even to rely on the provisions of Section 316, as the evidence was admittedly before me. Mr. Mashiani, who appeared for the state, denied that the intention of his admission was that the ambit of the admission included evidence already led, which was in conflict with matters raised in the report. The counsel for the accused stated that the admission which had been made by the state was clear and unequivocal, and that there was no limitation upon the admission made by the state. I raised with counsel for the accused whether or not, if that was the position, the evidence which was contained within the document which was in conflict with evidence which was led at the trial, for example, that accused 6 had nothing to do with the matter, and that accused 6 was implicated in terms of the statement. His attitude was that this was an irrelevant question, and that in fact what the only relevance was that it had been reported by Mr. Lukele, the victim, that Mofa King was the person who had produced the identity card, whereas in his evidence, Lukele had stated that the person who had produced the identity card was accused 4. There is no need, in view of my approach to the evidence, to decide the conflict between the state and the defense as to the ambit of the admission. I shall treat the matter as if the admission was made and included the statement that I have set out previously. The impact of the statement upon the case of accused number 4 is that whereas in the evidence given by Mr. Lukele had been identified as the person who had produced, Mr. Lukele identified accused 4 as the person who had produced the identity card and as one of the people who was implicated in the kidnapping. Whereas in the statement he is recorded as using the word Mofokeng in this regard. The name of accused number 4 is not Mofokeng. The name of accused number 6 is Mofokeng, and the submission was made that what had happened in the statement was that Mr. Lukele had referred to accused number 6 as being the person implicated, not accused 4, hence the identification of accused 4 on appeal would be considered in the light of this recanting by Mr. Lukele. In my view, this submission is ill-founded. It is to be recollected that during the course of the evidence, Mr. Lukele identified accused number 4 as the person who had kidnapped him by using the physical features of the accused and his observations in relation to the matter. At the time of those events, accused number 4 was unknown to him and was unknown as to person and name. Accordingly, the identification of accused number 4 by Lukele was dependent upon different matter than the name. The name being unknown to Lukele at the time of the events, the attribution of the name to accused 4 of Mofokeng is an ex post facto matter and does not impact whatsoever upon the observations and evidence given by Lukele in relation to the identity of accused number 4. Hence, in my view, the fact that Lukele referred to the person who attacked him as Mofokeng in no way impacts upon any of the conclusions which were made in the judgment. And the use of the word has no impact whatsoever. In addition, it is relevant to record that it is apparent from the document SP7 that there was no intention or no visible sign of an intention on the part of Lukele to change his evidence or in any way recant what his evidence had been. His evidence purported to be a description of what had taken place in relation to him and is accurate as was conceded by counsel in the other material respects. Accordingly, in my view, there is no merit in the submission made that there is any impact upon the approach of any appeal court by reason of the use of the word Mofokeng in annexure in Exhibit SP7. The submissions in relation to the applications for leave to appeal against conviction and sentence of all the accused covered the same grounds which had been covered during the course of the hearing and which had been submitted to me previously prior to me making the judgments which I did. In my view, there is no reasonable prospect of another court coming to a different conclusion, and it follows accordingly that all the applications made by all the accused as against conviction and sentence are dismissed.
Lord, may I just, at this point, place on record that I at no stage admitted the correctness of the identity of the description of accused 4 by Lukele. I at no stage admitted that. It's, as I understand your judgment.
I don't understand what
your judgment. As I understand it, you said that it was admitted, conceded by counsel for 326, that Lukele correctly described accused number 4.
In his evidence?
Yes.
No. You didn't admit that.
I just want to make
it. It's no intention of me to say you admitted that what the evidence was correct. You didn't do that.
Thank you.
Right. The accused may be taken down. Court adjourns.
Case here in Gauteng. Let's move on now to other stories. The Eastern Cape's Mkuma municipality is holding an investment summit in Butterworth in an effort to attract investors and revitalize the local economy. The summit is aimed at turning the municipality into a destination for tourism and create jobs.
The province of the Eastern Cape, known for its rich history of producing world-renowned leaders, unfortunately, it still battles with high rates of unemployment. Plans are, however, underway to turn the situation around. Top on the agenda is to revitalize factories that closed down after 1994 across the province, creating a huge job loss.
The infrastructure is owned by the ECDC. We are in discussions with the ECDC to ensure that they don't only hand over the facilities to the municipality, but they also assist in terms of ensuring that we revitalize the infrastructure that is there.
Potential investors are set to gather here to explore business opportunities in the tourism and agricultural sectors.
As a province, together with National, we have targeted the area around the infrastructure which does exist there to establish one of the agro-processing.
This will be a huge relief to the unemployed youth in the area.
This opening of these companies will help us gain and put food on the table for our families.
The role played by traditional leaders in the fight against colonialism in the former Ciskei homeland forms key part of the strategy to boost tourism here. Busisiwe Jamsana, SABC News, Butterworth.
Now, that's your news for now. We'll take a short break and we'll be back with your sports right after that. And by the way, stay tuned. We'll also bring you the latest from the court case against Radovan Krejcir just after the sports with our reporter on the scene.
News Today keeps you informed with news locally and around the world.
When Judge John Hlophe challenged the Supreme Court of Appeal when it sent the matter back and said that there must be an inquiry set up.
We unpack business news.
There's an increase in general inflation in the country.
We give you up-to-date news of the day.
The drugs were seized at several locations in Sydney, including a shipping container sent from Hong Kong.
Police saying it's the largest haul of illicit drugs in 2 years.
We round up sports news.
Kosata, tell me about the legacy that you would like to build and be remembered for.
Trying to get my foundation running, which is going to focus on, all the sport, doesn't matter disability or able body. So, I'm passionate about sports.
Stay informed every Monday to Friday from 3 to 5:30 p.m. CAT. SABC News.
Welcome back. My name is Kendall Makhamat and I've got your sports on Newsroom. Now we come back from the break with a story that members of parliament have criticised South African rugby bosses for the slow pace of transformation in the game. SARU President Oregon Hoskins and some of his top officials appeared before the Sports Portfolio Committee.
The Rainbow Nation, almost 22 years old. But MPs feel that reality is still not reflected in South African rugby. They slammed SARU for the slow transformation and also for the lack of women in its top structures.
We are not happy about transformation. The way you answer as if all is well with transformation. We are saying we are the 5th committee of sport. Since 1994, the transformation is not there.
The president is leading team of white males and colors. There's no women. Why at this time? 22 years into democracy. Where are the women?
SARU admits shortfalls in some areas, but in terms of the Memorandum of Understanding signed with SASCOC and the Department of Sport, they're actually well ahead of their targets.
We're in the green. We're getting an 80% mark. So, yes, we are doing something. Yes, we are succeeding. We are there. Are we doing enough? Yet again, it'll be the same answer. We can never do enough. Are we going to try to do better? Yes, we are going to try to do better. Each and every one of us is committed to that plan.
SARU assured MPs that transformation remains a priority.
We don't pay lip service to transformation. We know that for rugby, it is the most difficult bugbear for us. We know that we are being watched by our society as a sport, and we want to honestly do the right thing.
The rugby union boasts financial health and 5 consecutive unqualified audit reports. As for the Blitzboks, a Rio Olympic Games medal is the goal, although SARU wouldn't reveal what color that medal may be. Lukhanyo Chalada, SABC News, Parliament.
Now, promising football players from the Nedbank Kiona Talent Search will benefit further with their futures safeguarded. The Premier Soccer League sponsors have come up with an initiative called the Ring of Steel that will guide the players throughout their careers.
The initiative is to provide support not only on the field of play but also off the pitch. It has become common that players not only in South Africa fail to sustain their lifestyles after their playing days. This new program aims to put an end to that. The focus will be to build a brand that can be used after their playing days.
We want to build a ring around our players in order to help them succeed, not just as soccer players, but as professionals. Something that can be given to them that allows them to further their careers.
It's a pilot project that begins with 3 players. Jared Meyers, Ian Chikowa and Aubrey Mudiba will be the first to benefit. The 3 players are from the 2015 Nedbank Kiona team that signed long-term contracts with PSL teams.
For those years where you're playing, you need to invest as much. And also, I think it's all about being educated also, because they're also educating us with how to invest and what to do with our money.
The project is structured at giving necessary advice. Experts have been assembled to protect and preserve the future of these players. They include a financial advisor, nutrition specialist, exercise physiologist and a scientist. Former players and an agent complete the team.
The players are gifted with the ability to inspire and entertain the nation, and it makes sense that they live a life of dignity while they're playing, as well as long after their careers.
It covers all the aspects of a person on how a player can live a healthy lifestyle or a sustainable lifestyle.
It's hoped that more players from the 2016 Kiona team will get this opportunity. However, that will be based on whether this first run is successful and sustainable. Lebang Dube, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, speaking of the Nedbank Cup, SuperSport United coach Stuart Baxter is happy with how his team has been performing during the short term he's been at the helm, and he wants them to go as far as possible in the Nedbank Cup. United hosts Black Aces, a team which has rediscovered their early season form in the quarter-finals of the Nedbank Cup in Atteridgeville on Friday evening.
Baxter only joined United at the end of January after the club parted ways with its previous coach. The club has won 4, lost 3 and drawn 1 of the ABSA Premiership matches it has played since he joined it. United also won 2 matches in the Nedbank Cup competition under Baxter to reach the quarter-final stage. And the Englishman believes his players deserve to win something for their efforts since he took over the reins.
I would like the players win something because I think their efforts since I came deserve a trophy.
Aces were among the 3 ABSA Premiership title contenders before a slump which saw them drop to 5th place on the log. But they seem to have rediscovered their form and would like to end the season on a high following a 2-all draw with Kaizer Chiefs and a 2-0 win over Maritzburg United.
In the middle of the season, we dropped some couple points because of the fatigue of the players, mentally, physically, some injuries. But we're trying now to get up and try to finish up also in a good note.
Aces will look to the ABSA Premiership's top goal scorer Collins Mbesuma to find the back of the net come Friday. Pesing Katlu, SABC News, Johannesburg.
So let's take a quick look at the fixtures for the Nedbank Cup quarter-final weekend. As you can see, it's at SuperSport United against Black Aces match. First up, Lucas Muripe Stadium, 8 p.m. on Friday night. And on Saturday, 2 matches to be played. That's Free State Stars. They host Bidvest Wits at Gobu Park. That's a 3 p.m. kickoff. Then the later match at 8:15. We've got Mamelodi Sundowns against Orlando Pirates. I'll let that sink in for a little bit in case you'd forgotten. Mamelodi Sundowns against Orlando Pirates. We'll see who actually triumphs on that night. Sunday, 24th of April, Polokwane City against Baroka FC at the old Peter Mokaba Stadium. Now, Mamelodi Sundowns host AS Vita of the Democratic Republic of Congo in the return leg of the second round of the CAF Champions League tonight. AS Vita beat the ABSA Premiership log leaders 1-0 in Kinshasa over a week ago in the first leg. Meanwhile, the second round of return fixtures got underway yesterday in Ndolo, with Zambia's Zesco United 3-1 up on aggregate against Stade Malien of Mali. The home side extended their advantage as early as the 5th minute, with striker Jesse Were conjuring up a goal out of nothing. Then Stade Malien got a goal back through Musa Koulibaly, who delivered a devastating strike into the top corner as the Mali side looked for a way back into the tie. However, Stade Malien left the back door open and Maybin Mwaba put the tie to bed as Zesco United advanced to the Champions League group stage 2-1 on the day and 5-2 on aggregate. And as we do, we'll take a quick look at the fixtures for the CAF Champions League for tonight. We will start a little bit with what happened last night. Iyas Sati from Algeria, a 0-0 draw against Al Marikh of Sudan. Mobeja against Zamalek, a 1-1 draw. And then Zesco, as you've just heard, 2-1 win over Stade Malien in Ndolo. Tonight, TP Mazembe, tout puissant Mazembe of the DRC against Wydad of Morocco. Al Ahly Tripoli against ASEC Mimosa from Cote d'Ivoire. Al Ahly of Egypt, the other Egyptian Giants against the Young Africans of Tanzania. And tonight, Mamelodi Sundowns, our log leaders, against AS Vita to see if they can return and come back from that. They're playing at Lucas Muripe Stadium. Then Etoile Sahel, they're Tunisia. They play against Enyimba of Nigeria. And the PSL will be taking a break over the weekend, but not before one match tonight. There will be matches being played next weekend as well. But let's just have a quick look at all the matches being played between now and the 26th of April. Tonight's Golden Arrows against Maritzburg United at the Princess Magogo Stadium is pretty much well, it's one of those matches that you do hope to get a result, you do hope to get goals, but we'll see how that looks tomorrow morning. Then Free State Stars against Maritzburg United, that's next Tuesday, the 26th of April at Gobo Park. SuperSport United will be playing Bidvest Wits at the Lucas Muripe at 7:30 on Tuesday night. Then the Kenyan Sevens rugby team received a hero's welcome after returning home from its tournament win in Singapore last weekend. Kenya surprised log leaders Fiji with a 30-7 entertaining thrashing to clinch their first ever major Sevens title.
And on they'll come Kenya, rumbling!
It has been described as one of the biggest upsets in recent Sevens history. Kenya, who scraped through to the knockout stages, led 20-0 at half-time and never let go of their lead as they recorded a convincing victory over the defending World Series champions.
Boy, we just love Sevens.
Back on home soil, there were huge cheers as the Kenyans were welcomed back. The team, however, never doubted their ability to beat Fiji, who they narrowly lost to in the quarterfinals in Hong Kong the week before.
I think going to this tournament, we knew we had a chance from the performance that we had in Hong Kong. It was a good performance, and we just wanted to come in, rectify on the things that we didn't do well in Hong Kong, and they quite went well, and we are just happy that we got home with a win.
We did everything as we have been doing every time, but the only thing that this time we executed everything at 100%. And we got the results, and yes, the trophy for it.
Kenya shot up to 7th in the standings, while Fiji extended their lead at the top to 8 points over South Africa. 2 rounds remain in the series in France and England. Liesl Zankel, SABC News.
Now, Russian teenager Karen Kachanov caused the biggest upset so far at the Barcelona Tennis Open, beating world number 17 Roberto Bautista Agut in the second round. The Russian, who had to qualify for the tournament, beat the Spaniard 6-2, 6-7 and 6-3 to advance to the next round.
The 19-year-old Russian turned professional just over 2.5 years ago, and even at that stage he was regarded as a future star. So far his rise in the world rankings has been steady rather than spectacular, and he's currently at 138 in the world, but a first victory over a top 20 player might change that.
Supreme hitting and supreme tennis all round from the 19-year-old.
The 1.98-meter tall Kachanov dominated the first set, but in the second set the Spaniard tested his mobility around the court with some carefully crafted drop shots.
Still in the game.
Agut won the second set, but the Russian held his nerve in the final set.
Awesome tennis. Match point number 3. He can. It's the win of his young career.
He will face Alexander Dolgopolov in the next round. Harry Olivier, SABC News.
And that's where we leave it with the sports. So you've been watching sports on Newsroom. Now we go back to Elvis, who's got a topic that's been very close to the heart of many a South African. Elvis?
Thank you, Kendall, and that's correct. Now, an elephant is killed every 15 minutes in Africa for its tusk. In Tanzania, the elephant population has declined by 60% in the last 5 years. In 2014, in South Africa, 1,215 rhino were killed, which equates to about 1 rhino in every 8 hours. Rhino horn is now valued at over 66,000 rand a kilo. It is worth more than gold. And 8 out of 10 rhino horns smuggled out via Mozambique, Kenya and Ethiopia is all smuggled to Asia. Bowers Brothers is an organization that sells jewelry, and the profits made from the sales are then given to a British-based NGO called Tusk, whose lead patron is the Duke of Cambridge, Prince William. And they are directly concerned with protecting various endangered animals that are native to the African continent. Joining us now in studio is the Bowers Brothers, Matthew and Adam. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
First and foremostly, any one of you, tell me more about your organization.
Okay, so essentially the organization was started by us towards the beginning of last year, and we sort of founded it upon a couple key principles. And the first of those is to live with no regrets. So we were tired of being essentially passive activists on social media and getting really in touch and making a contribution towards the cause, so to speak.
So what did you decide to do then?
So essentially, to achieve this goal, we've created a whole range of jewelry. And we started with Grant McDonald. So Grant McDonald is our main supplier, and he just received a royal warrant And he essentially has created beautiful handcrafted elephant pieces for us, which is our first piece. And the first piece was actually auctioned off at Tusk at their 25th anniversary dinner.
That sounds absolutely fantastic, yes?
I think what was important for us is that we knew that, firstly, we love Africa, and we love the bush, and we knew that the biggest contribution we could make was through providing the revenues required to actually fight this war on the ground. You know, we live in the city, our hearts are in the bush, and we spent, you know, we were lucky enough when we were young to spend our holidays in the bush, and so we knew the best way we could contribute to this fight was by providing money to the right people on the ground.
Now, I hope that we're going to see some of the artwork because we got some of the pictures available. But tell me more about the artwork itself. You were talking about it earlier, Matt, right?
I'm Adam.
Adam and Matthew, yes. Tell me more about the artwork and the sort of stuff that you would do. Is it only mainly about the elephant?
No, so essentially we've got a couple of our centerpieces which are created by Grant MacDonald, which is what you see here. Yeah. This is actually the second edition of this elephant. It's beautifully handcrafted, and there's going to be 3 sizes bigger than this. This piece is worth about £750, and it's sold, will be sold online. And right now we've entered into game lodges in the Masai Mara and our first game lodge in South Africa as well. So it'll be sold in those types of gift shops in those places. We have in the process of creating a mold of a rhino. And we've got a chimpanzee and a turtle that really represent different animals of different biomes throughout Africa, which is what Tusk supports.
Now, in terms of funding, is the organisation only self-funded with the sales of the artwork, or is there any other funding for the organisation?
So we have self-funded everything. We have our mother who works with us, and she's also very passionate about the bush and about jewelry as well. Everything that we've done by ourselves, and we kind of use working capital to do another project, like Adam explains, to work with the chimpanzees and the turtles, and everything kind of rolls off each other.
So once the artwork has been sold and you get the funding, where does it go into, in what sort of projects?
So essentially, Tusk is about protecting wildlife, supporting communities, and promoting education. So they like to touch on all of those 3 aspects to create a rounded approach to sort of combating poaching throughout Africa. So it's not just about actually protecting the wildlife, so to speak, but educating and supporting communities to a state where they don't have to feel the need to go and poach.
And that education that we're talking about, it's also about awareness, isn't it, at the same time? But what do you educate the communities around the area?
I would say that you educate the communities around the area just on essentially how desperate the situation is getting, and that's the other side of poaching is we can actually promote tourism and things like that that would generate revenue for those communities rather than just something that's taking, rather promote tourism and sort of uplift the communities with jobs in specific areas.
Now, on this show, we focused on a lot of major conservation efforts that have been put forward to try and combat poaching, such as dehorning and rhino farming. Do you guys feel perhaps that those are the type of efforts that makes it possible and maybe a possible solution to fight against rhino poaching?
I think that combined, there have been some very good initiatives. I think one of the problems with the anti-poaching effort at the moment is that there's no kind of one single approach, and there's lots of different things going on. I think that there needs to be more communication between the different parties. Ultimately, this is about economics. Different people have different views on what the right way to go about it is. In South Africa, they've recently just allowed the trade of rhino horn inside the country. So it's very difficult to kind of grasp what is the right way to go about it right now. I think what Adam touched on in terms of the conservation, people need to understand that that's the most sustainable way of making money off these rhinos. And like I said, it all comes down to economics in the end.
Yes. Talking about economics, what do you expect from the auction to get out of that once you go online there?
Oh, well, the auction already took place, and we drew £650 from that auction. But, I mean, bear in mind, we've created products along a range of price points to give access to a whole different number of people to actually contribute towards the cause. So we have products that are bangles that have silver pieces on them that are locally supplied, And we have other things like gift cards and tea towels, so we really allow everyone to get involved in the efforts and to create revenue for this type of thing.
I wonder if we have those pictures, we can just show some of them. So the bangles, and these are affordable things that people can buy every day. And where can people get hold of these type of items? So
the bangles will be available online, and in our first couple game lodges that we're putting on, so we are trying to give access. Eventually it will come into sense in a retail environment throughout stores that are sort of eco-friendly and eco-conscious.
And all the money that's being generated from that all go back into conservation?
Yeah, I think the idea here is that we are trying to engineer this thought process of purpose over profits. Obviously, there are costs that are involved in this, like marketing and awareness and education and things like that. But the whole purpose of this thing is to generate money to put back into conserving the animals that we live with.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, and good luck with the campaign. It sounds like a wonderful initiative.
Thank you so much.
And that was the Bowes brothers, Matthew and Adam, joining us in studio, talking about conservation and what they do. You can also do your bit, save the rhino and assist in conservation. We'll take a short break. We'll be back right after that. Stay tuned.
We're heading to a future of cars that will drive themselves, and a place where robots will be doing some of our chores. But the challenge in Africa is to make sure that everyone is part of this new world.
To be behind with technology, it is a challenge for us as offenders.
There are many initiatives to ensure that Africans are truly connected.
We're now giving more access and internet to now the end users.
On Network, we have information on Africa's technology landscape, possibilities for the future, and some great African innovations. That's Network with me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
Our eyes are the window to the beautiful wonders of the world, but blindness enhances other senses. Technology has made living with blindness easy.
If you look on the side here, it's got like grooves in there. Yeah. So the first one after when it comes together will be 20 Rand, 50 Rand. And if I slide this in, I can see according to the grooves, it's now on 50 Rand.
To Steve Kekana, blindness was never a hindrance, but a blessing.
You've got to know that you are the child of the universe, being blind, and you've got the right to be here.
Join your host, Dr. Sello Mutawun, every Saturday from 9 a.m.
Ahika Mano produces abstract and symbolic works of art. He called his latest collection Vote with Ink, Not Blood.
Praying for peace, literally, in my own way.
The South African film titled Luister or Listen in Afrikaans tackles issues of race in the country.
I think that the end goal is the reformation of institutional culture, but how we get there is in fact through changing the language policy so that no student is forced to learn in Afrikaans.
It's fashion designers like Julia Mpoko who are starting to pay more attention to menswear and hope to make a mark in the fashion industry.
So regardless of whether you're African, European, there's certain styles that you like. So if an African man enjoys wearing simple, well-tailored pants, then yes, I guess.
Join Refulo Mula for that 1 hour weekly dose of arts and entertainment news every Friday at 9 p.m. on Trends.
A very good afternoon. You're watching the Midday Report.
Lunchtime news amplified.
But for now, this is what they call home. Their hope to shift to a higher ground seems to be against the tide.
Midday Report provides you with more than just news stories.
I just want Port Elizabeth to know that they own a world-class theatre.
Good afternoon. You're with the news at 1 in the headlines.
Very good afternoon to you. This is News Live. I'm Natasha Thorpe. Let's take a quick look at what's coming up in your headlines.
Good afternoon and welcome to A View from the House.
For all things news, tune in to Midday Report weekdays at 12 noon only on the SABC News channel.
Tonight in an SABC exclusive news expose, we show you how firearm proficiency certificates are fraudulently sold for a few thousand rand.
What you did was illegal. Do you at least acknowledge that? What you did is illegal.
I say it could be probably illegal.
Nigeria is Africa's second largest tomato producer.
The chief executive of Enrisco says he started the company with a capital of $75 million.
The problem now is that the market has been created in China.
He says that doing business in the country is becoming more difficult every day.
It's Wednesday, the 20th of April, 2016. This is Newsroom on SABC News, Channel 404, Jumbo Africa. And a very warm welcome to the final hour as we broadcast live from Auckland Park Studios here in Johannesburg, South Africa, to the rest of the African continent. I'm Elvis Preston. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. We're also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. Now today we look at the suspected Ponzi scheme, Triple M, that has raised a number of questions around the legality and the viability of a financial scheme that claims to offer 30% interest on investments, or return rather, to its investors. Now, our question of the day is, what do you make of the Triple M community investment scheme? Let me know what's on your mind on the Facebook page as well as on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. But first, let's take a look at your news headlines. Eskom has issued summons against Optimum Mine, a subsidiary of Oak Bay Resources, for failing to supply coal that meets the quality specifications of the Ndrina power station in Mpumalanga. The Minister of Justice, Michael Masuta, and the South African Communist Party will oppose the petition to release Chris Hani's assassinator, Janus Walush, in the North Gauteng High Court today. And in the U.S., Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton scored big wins in the New York primary, edging them closer to winning the Republican and Democratic nominations. Now, those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening in the sports front. Very good morning, Kendall.
Elvis, good morning. And good morning to everyone at home as well. Quite a lot happening in the sports field. Not so much in the sports field, but more in courtrooms and boardrooms. But this is what's coming up today.
It covers all the aspects of a person on how a player can live a healthy lifestyle.
Footballers have been thrown a lifeline by Premier Soccer League sponsors in an initiative that should guide them throughout their careers.
We are not happy about transformation. The way you answer as if all is well with transformation.
And members of parliament impatient with the pace of transformation in rugby. Of course, Kenya's triumphant Rugby Sevens team returned home to a hero's welcome after winning the Singapore tournament in a huge upset over Fiji. We'll have all of that and more at 11:30. It's now time for the news with Elvis President.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. Eskom has issued summons against Optimum Mine, a subsidiary of Oak Bay Resources, for failing to supply coal that meets the quality specifications of the Ndrina power station in Mpumalanga. The power utility says it has never directly awarded tenders to any companies linked to Gupta-owned family businesses. Eskom spokesperson Kula Pasiwe says at the moment they are dealing with Optimum Mine after they bought Glencore Mine, which was put under business rescue. Pasiwe has stressed that the 2 billion rand penalty imposed on Optimum remains in force. The Minister of Justice, Michael Masuta, and the South African Communist Party will oppose the petition to release Chris Hani's killer, Janus Walush, in the North Gauteng High Court today. Last week, the court judge dismissed government's bid to appeal her ruling that Walush could be released on parole. Masuta applied for leave to appeal that ruling just 2 days after the 23rd anniversary of the SACP's leader assassination. Walush, a Polish immigrant, shot Hani dead in the driveway of his Boksburg home on April the 10th, 1993. The SACP says that Walush was not remorseful and that he has not understood the magnitude of the crime that he committed. In the courts now, Czech fugitive Radovan Krič's application for leave to appeal his conviction has been dismissed. The Krič and his co-accused were appealing their conviction and sentence relating to a foiled 2013 drug deal. Krič was handed a 35-year sentence. Krič's lawyer argued that his client did not receive a fair trial due to physical constraints. He also said he was not awarded enough opportunity to prepare for the trial. A lawyer for the other accused said his clients had no intention to kidnap and kill. Now, should the accused be denied leave to appeal, it's likely that they will approach the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. We will see now shortly if we can cross live to the courts to find out what's the latest update from our reporter, but we'll keep you posted. Meanwhile, in the United States, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton scored big wins in the New York primary, edging them closer to winning the Republican and Democrat nominations. Both candidates claimed a home state advantage and played on their strong ties to New York. Nick Harper reports from the Big Apple in the United States.
Hillary Clinton's celebration party was more like a homecoming parade.
You proved once again there's no place like home.
The former New York senator knew she had to win convincingly in her home state to keep her credibility and chances of clinching the Democrat nomination alive.
Tonight, the race for the Democratic nomination is in the home stretch and victory is in sight.
Similarly, Donald Trump scored a significant victory in the Republican contest.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, New York. We love New York. We love New York.
Trump believes he can get the magic number of 1,237 delegates, the number needed to become the Republican nominee. A big win in New York suggests he could be right.
We don't have much of a race anymore, based on what I'm seeing on television. Senator Cruz is just about mathematically eliminated.
The New York primary was all about trying to prove who was the better New Yorker. For Republicans Ted Cruz and John Kasich, that seemed to involve eating lots of diverse New York cuisine. Trump spoke about his New York values of honesty and straight talking. Hillary Clinton's competition, Bernie Sanders, played the local boy card, emphasizing his Brooklyn born and bred history. And Hillary Clinton relied on established New York State support. Many agree having a local hook helps to pull the voters in.
Very, very important, as it is for most people, whether it be by their country or by their city. There's always an affiliation, there's a loyalty, there's a sense of pride, and that holds true for Donald Trump. And despite the fact that Bernie Sanders was born here, it seems that Hillary Clinton has grabbed the mantle of the local.
A big win in the Big Apple for both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, putting them a step closer to securing their party's nomination. It now seems increasingly likely that it will be these two facing off in November's general election. But before then, more states get to have their say. And up next Tuesday, 5 Northeast states pick their candidates. Nick Harper, SABC News, New York.
And back home, the South African Democratic Teachers Union, SATU, in the Free State, is staging a protest march against Provincial MEC for Education, Tate Makgoe. The union says that it's unhappy about the manner in which Makgoe is running the department. The memorandum will be handed to the office of the Premier, Ace Magashule. Now, for the latest on the march, we go to our SABC reporter, Balesa Moeti. Balesa, very good morning to you, and can you sketch us a brief picture as to what is happening there?
Good morning, Elvis. We are now outside the Batho police station where the march is departing to the building where they're going to hand over a memorandum to a representative from the Premier's office. We are joined by the Provincial Secretary of SATU, Mr. Makgolwane Moloi, who's just going to take us through the issues that make them unhappy as SATU and as teachers. Mr. Moloi, thank you for joining us. Just take us through what is it exactly that you want to raise today?
Yes, thank you very much, Palisa. Today we are going to hand a memorandum of demands to the office of the Premier because we believe that we have been long in discussion through bilateral meetings with the Department of Education and the MEC. Among the issues that we are going to raise in our memorandum is the issue of overcrowding in classes, the issue of the subsidies allocation to school, which has not been taking place since the last term, the issue of the bargaining, because we strongly believe as the organization that bargaining is being undermined, because we have seen the attitudes of the department, including the MEC, bypassing matters that should be discussed at the level of the bargaining being implemented, and that itself we see as arrogance, because the bargaining concept has been created in terms of the Labor Relations Act and should be respected by all parties. The other issues that is important is the utilization of many consultants in the Department of Education. We have many mathematics laboratories that are incomplete, are there in school being white elephant. They are not contributing to the provisioning of public quality education at the level of the institution. Those are some of the demands, and we also calling for that vacant substantive posts should be filled with immediate effect at the level of the offices and in the senior management in schools. And the conditions of office base should also be improved. As we can, there are many challenges in the offices. You don't have resources there, and the state of health is hazard at the office. The toilets in some offices are not working. So those are the issues that we are presenting to the Premier, because we have been in many bilateral meetings with the department, and we believe that the best person who can assist us in this regard is the Premier of the province.
So would you say that your relationship, as SATU with the MEC's office has collapsed completely?
So we are calling the intervention of the Premier, because we believe that being in meetings all the time doesn't assist, and we cannot forever be singing the same song all the time. So hence we say, the Premier, can you then intervene in this regard? And we are optimistic and have the confidence in the Premier that the issues that we'll be raising in the memorandum will be speedily addressed.
Okay, and if not, what's your next point?
We don't want to preempt the outcome in the manner in which the Premier will handle those particular issues. But after the time that we shall have set, the Provincial Executive Committee will meet and map a way forward. Of course, we'll be guided by what members are saying on process forward.
Roughly how many members do you have here, and are they from the entire province?
We expected more than 2,000, and we are happy that we have reached that number, and we are now beyond that number of 2,000. So that is the number we are anticipating here.
So that means that most of the schools today are not operating?
So as you will recall that SATU has the majority of the teachers in all the schools. So members of SATU are not in schools, and we have acted responsibly as the organization, because we have engaged the parents, we have engaged the school governing bodies for schools to release letters informing the parents that on this day all members of SATU in the province will not be at school, so that the parents can exercise their choices, whether it's in the interest of the children to send them to school or not. But members of SATU are all here.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure.
That is the Provincial Secretary of SATU here in the Free State, Mr. Magolwane Moloi, just taking us through some of the issues. With that, it's back to you, Elvis, in the studio.
Well, and there she's been drowned out by very excited protesters there. Now, a Free State government official has suggested that drivers of the bus which crashed on Sunday while carrying ANC volunteers that should be charged with murder instead of culpable homicide. The MEC for Police, Roads and Transport, Butana Kompela, says that 10 people who were travelling from Port Elizabeth lost their lives unnecessarily.
An emotional afternoon. Families arrived at the Germiston mortuary to identify the remains of their loved ones. The 5 men and 5 women died in a bus crash on Sunday. The ANC volunteers were returning home after attending the ANC manifesto launch in Port Elizabeth. They will be laid to rest this weekend.
The deceased will be released to the various families and they'll go to the private funeral undertaker. We will do a joint memorial service and a joint funeral, except for one family that would like to bury their beloved one in KZN.
It's alleged the accident occurred when the bus driver swapped seats while the bus was in motion.
I got almost 12 calls of people confirming that, yes, in the buses, it's a culture where when the bus is on the motion and drivers are driving on the buses. I didn't know such thing can ever happen.
However, on Sunday, the co-driver denied the allegation.
They are totally wrong. I was sitting next to the driver at the other seat. So I just see the bus lose control and going fast to the steering wheel. So these people, they just saw two drivers along the steering wheel, I think so. So they would think that they were exchanging driving while the bus is moving.
The bus drivers are expected to be charged with culpable homicide, but the Free State MEC suggested that they be charged with murder.
We cannot live on the whims of judiciary to tell us that these people have to be charged on culpable homicide. This is a blatant murder of a number of people that unnecessarily lost their life because of negligence of the drivers.
The bus company has said it will conduct its own private investigation into the cause of the accident. Hasina Gori, SABC News.
The son of ANC anti-apartheid struggle stalwart Amina and Yusuf Kachalia says it was very difficult to leave his ancestral political home for the Democratic Alliance. Caleb Kachalia has joined the DA as its mayoral candidate for Ekurhuleni. He was introduced to hundreds of DA supporters at the Germiston Council chamber.
I think I can bring that to the party.
The DA is determined to wrestle power from the ANC in all three metros in Gauteng, as well as the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro in the Eastern Cape. For the 2016 local election strategy, the party has listed businessman Herman Mashaba as its mayoral candidate for Johannesburg, and for Ekurhuleni, Caleb Kachalia, the son of ANC struggle hero Amina Kachalia.
I sought, after much introspection, which party could possibly be my political home, to face the challenges and to contribute to building our society in a way that's qualitatively different from the way it has been.
Kachalia says he is standing as its mayoral candidate for the DA, not because he is angry, but feels it's the right thing to do. He says he feels betrayed by the ANC. But the ANC in Ekurhuleni is unfazed by Kachalia's move to the DA, saying he is not known and has never led any of the party structures.
I don't know why will the DA candidate threaten the ANC. We've got a machinery here. By the way, the Kachalias that we know in the ANC, former MEC Firoz Kachalia and his brother who's a judge, they are members of the ANC. So we can't be talking about nephews and nieces and we want to make it serious and as a threat for the ANC. The ANC is a much bigger organization.
The DA will launch its 2016 local elections manifesto at the Rand Stadium in Johannesburg on Saturday.
EFF leader Julius Malema has been on the campaign trail in Soweto ahead of the party's local government manifesto launch next weekend. The party has called on Parliament to be accessible to the people that it represents.
Interacting with Chabulani residents ahead of the EFF's manifesto launch month end, the party is drumming up support. Party leader Julius Malema called on Parliament to be more democratic, calling for more participation.
Why is there no item in Parliament where ordinary masses apply to come and present their cases in Parliament? You must come and tell your story on your own.
Residents add their grievances.
Leadership traumatized in the townships.
We have children who have studied, but they still can't find work.
In the run-up to the August local government elections, political parties are leaving nothing to chance. It's going to be one of the hotly contested municipal elections in the history of South Africa. SABC News, Johannesburg.
In regional news now, In Kimberley, the Congress of South African Union, COSATU, is engaged in another protest march to the office of the Premier of the Northern Cape to hand over a memorandum of social economic challenges facing the province. The memorandum of grievances will also be handed over to the Department of Labour, Mine Management and to the Mayor of Salt Plaatje Municipality. Now, to hear more about the grievances and the protest march, we are joined by SABC's reporter Silwani Kakao. She's with a guest there. Very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis. Yes, we are in Kimberley here in the Northern Cape, where members of COSATU are outside here to march to office of the Premier in the Northern Cape, Premier Sylvia Lucas's office, to hand over a memorandum of socio-economic issues. Now, some of these issues that COSATU members are marching about today include the mass retrenchment in the mining sector as well as in the communication sector. The other issues are poor service delivery and also high electricity prices in the province. But here with me is COSATU's Deputy General Secretary, Mr. Soli Petwe, who's going to tell us more about issues that are on the memorandum and what they want the way to be forward. Good morning, Mr. Petwe. I've just mentioned a few issues that are on the memorandum, but can you tell us in more detail what these issues are?
Well, thank you very much. As you said, that the main issues that workers are demanding today to the Premier as the head of government in this province, including national, is that the many job losses that are happening in the mining sector, the many jobs that we are losing in the telecommunication sector, issues of service delivery, issues of the banning of the labor brokers and insourcing of the entire people who are employed by the private sectors in private government. You have the issues about, which is a national issue around the issue of the tax law, as workers are demanding that tax law must be scrapped. As you know, that from the national discussion at NEDLEC, it has been postponed for 2 years. Now workers are saying in provinces nationally that piece of legislation that deals with the Provident Fund of Workers must be scrapped. There are issues of service deliveries in the municipalities, Salt Plaatje Municipal, where workers are complaining and members of the community about corruption and poor service delivery. So there are many issues in telecommunication. When the current CEO was appointed, we had about 23,000 workers in that sector. Today, we have 12,000 workers. All workers are being retrenched, are dismissed. And that CEO, he's not ashamed to go public and say, by the end of June, he wants to see those workers reduced to 6,000. That's pathetic. That's why we're saying today workers are giving a memorandum to the provincial government. As I said, part of those issues are national issues. For example, the issue of the labor brokers, the issue of the tax issues. We want provinces at provincial government to scrap the labor brokers. And in the issue of the labor brokers and outsourcing, nationally, we would be giving government a deadline, and come the 7th of October 2015, 26th, as you know, that day is International Decent Work. We want all the labor brokers to be scrapped.
Okay, and so that explains to us that you guys do have a specific time frame that you are giving to the Northern Cape provincial government to address these issues. What happens if maybe the Northern Cape provincial government does not address these issues within the given time frame?
Look, the Northern Cape memorandum today is 7 days. That's why I said in that memorandum there are national issues, there are issues of provincial. For the for the Northern Cape department, it's 7 days. If that 7 days is they are not going to respond to all those issues, you know that this is our last week of mop-up towards our May Day. We will be going to a May Day in about 18 rallies in the country. In the May Day of Northern Cape here and in Upington, we will be seeking mandate to workers. What is that we must do in relation to the Northern Cape memorandum?
Okay.
Obviously, as we said, we want to take a mass action nationally in relation to those issues that are affecting workers in the country.
Okay, and perhaps to touch more on that, what it is exactly that you would like to see done about these issues?
As I said, we want government to take responsibility of protecting jobs. In the telecommunication, we have been talking to the Minister of Telecommunication, Minister Sabonga Celo. We have been talking to the CEO. The arrogance of the CEO is so pathetic. As COSATU, we cannot accept it. Is that the the minister must give instruction that this retrenchment that is taking place in telecom must be stopped and allow the engagement in terms of section and then consultation with the communication workers union. If that is not going to happen, we're really going to take a mass action, as I said. We want the provincial government to take responsibility of making sure that there is a job creation. Government led by the ANC government since 1994, they have been promising job opportunities. At no stage we have seen permanent, decent job. We now want decent job. That's what we said. And we want the total scrapping of the labor brokers. The e-tolls, as we said, is the national campaign. We are saying those e-tolls, as the mandate from the National Congress, they must be scrapped.
That was COSATU Soli Petwe telling us that what they would like to see as COSATU is more people being employed and less number of people being retrenched, not just in the Northern Cape, but everywhere in the country. Now, something worth mentioning also is that the same march is underway in Uppington here in the Northern Cape. So far, the march has been peaceful. There has not been any violence, and police are here to monitor the situation. That's all from us for now. It's back to you in the studio.
That's our reporter in the Northern Cape, Selwani Kakao, joining us there live. Now, the executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg, Councillor Parks Tau, will be bestowing the Freedom of the City Award on Advocate George Bezos and Dr. Andrew Mlangeni. Now, the city is conferring its highest honor on two of its greatest residents who have both played astounding roles in the country's liberation struggle. Let's now join the proceedings live here in Johannesburg.
1964. Is what former President Nelson Mandela said in a statement during the Rivonia trial. I quote, "This then is what the African National Congress is fighting. Their struggle is a truly national one. It is a struggle of the African people, inspired by their own suffering and their own experience. It is a struggle for the right to live. During my lifetime, I have dedicated myself to this struggle of the African people. I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve, but it need be. It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die," unquote. Next Wednesday, on the 27th April 2016, South Africans will be celebrating the 22nd anniversary of democracy. We would do well to remember that in the broad narrative of our liberation, thousands of women and men, black and white, made the collective sacrifice that took us to the ultimate destination of a free and democratic South Africa that Nelson Mandela spoke about in his statement from the dock. It is a struggle that also produced women and men of great character and integrity, women and men of principle and practice who surrendered their own freedom, patriots who took a stand for the cause of all humanity like Mandela. They, in their own actions and knowing that such actions will result in arrest, imprisonment, torture, death in detention and exile, nonetheless said, if need be, let it be. Your Worship, Executive Mayor, I'm privileged and deeply honored to be presiding over this specially convened council to confer the rare honor of the freedom of the city to two extraordinary individuals, Mr. Andrew Mlangeni and Advocate George Bezos, who represented a tradition that upholds the dignity of all the people, regardless of the price that they had to pay to defend, secure and guarantee that dignity. Here in front, all of us, with sight of everyone, are fearless warriors who are unashamedly unrestrained in their love, their human passion, they are loyal, and their people and their cause. We are very grateful for the exceptional contribution you have made to Johannesburg and South Africa, and thank you for being George Bizos and Rumulangen. I thank you.
Applications for leave of absence.
We are going to note the leave of absence and refer them to the office of the Secretary.
Addressed by the Executive Mayor.
Executive Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Chief Whip of Council, Councillor Prema Naidu, to our honorees, Advocate George Bizos, and the Honorable Andrew Mlangeni, Freemen of the City of Johannesburg, Ndati Ahmed Katrada, Free Woman of the City of Johannesburg, Ms. Sophie Williams-de-Bruyn, Deputy Minister Hlengwe Mkhize, stalwart of our struggle for liberation, Isu Chiba, members of the Mayoral Committee, the Deputy Judge President, Public Protector and Deputy Public Protector, fellow councillors, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Starting where you had quoted, Madam Speaker, one would want to refer to that celebrated speech by our icon and leader, Nelson Mandela, 52 years ago. And indeed, as you said, Madam Speaker, on this very day, 52 years ago, no more than a few kilometers from where we stand, a statement which came to define the moral code of the struggle against apartheid became a global rallying cry from the dock. These were the words of former President of the Republic and global icon, Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, himself later to be named Freeman of our city of Johannesburg. This when he said, and I quote, "During my lifetime, I have dedicated myself to this struggle of the African people. I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve, but if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die," close quote. These two men upon whom we today confer the honor of freemen of the city of Johannesburg were both there to hear those powerful words in person. One as a defendant, the other as a member of the defending legal team. We bestow this honor not only in recognition of their being amongst those who made that noble, supremely principled stand at Madiba's side, confronting the logic of a deeply illegitimate system with profoundly democratic clarity and eloquence, risking death penalty or risking the death penalty and persecution to do it. We also honor the service they gave and continue to give to the very democracy that they helped lead the struggle to create. And through them, we honor the values enshrined in our constitutional order, the great refutation of the system of our own, or rather the great refutation of the system our honorees gave their freedom and risked their lives to bring down. Honoring those values to the fullest will be the work of several generations yet. We have not yet escaped the long shadow of the systems that the Rivonia trial exposed to the world as so profoundly unjust. To truly honor the recognition we bestow today, to truly consecrate their status as freemen of this city, we must commit as we confer the status of freemen that we will redouble our fight against the consequences of the system they helped bring down. Our cities remain a patchwork of race and class-based ghettos that would have troubled Verwoerd and the architects of grand apartheid not at all. Only now, the costs of transport and housing are enforcing the divisions once enforced by the past laws, the Group Areas Act, and the Native Laws Amendment Act. So we must intensify the efforts under our Corridors of Freedom program to lead the private and public sector alike to cast transformation in glass and indeed in concrete. To invest in mixed use, mixed income realities along our transit-oriented corridors and in our new transit nodes. The Statistician General has just this week reminded us of the scale of the educational and skills deficit still being experienced by those historically disadvantaged in our country. So we must continue as the city to drive the powerful response we have initiated through the Vulindlele Jozi program, our far-sighted program with the Harambee Youth Empowerment Accelerator to break down barriers to opportunity for 200,000 young people, both through placement into opportunities and through state-of-the-art, market-defined skills development channels. Johannesburg's economy is now twice the size it was in the first year of our democracy. But the economy remains highly concentrated in the hands of the few. So we must not shirk from the transformation commitment, which is epitomized by the city's Jozi at Work program to empower and develop thousands upon thousands of community-level enterprises. Such enterprises allow the menu to capture the value and opportunity growing our township economies, or rather, an opportunity growing our township economies represent. The people of our townships must reap much more of the billions in value that they spend on goods and services each year. The city must be firm in its commitment to build pathways for all opportunity and prosperity to help them achieve. So we honor Ntate Mlangeni and Ntate Bizos, most explicitly not by ceremonies and lunches, but by continuing to intensify this important work, by paying heed to the values that they epitomize. I ask myself, what makes these two men so exceptional? The answer is not only in their values, but that they uphold them in all circumstances. They are not deflected by this or that event, but rather act as they have always acted in terms of their fundamental beliefs. We know their personal characteristics well, their courage, honesty, integrity, fortitude, as well as endurance. But underlying these are the commitments that drive them. Excuse me. I believe that their deep-seated belief in human equality is fundamental to who they are. From this stems their unremitting fight against racism and discrimination, and their belief that skin color, gender, and everything else that superficially distinguishes one man or woman from another must never obscure their essential equality and humanity. And further, that religious and other beliefs, even if one differs from them, are irrelevant to the dignity and worth of every individual and the respect that each man and woman's rights endure. Closely linked to their commitment to human equality is their belief in freedom. This is a value that every generation must define in terms of its own circumstances. But it means being able, within limits set by accepted standards of decency and without infringing on the rights of other people, to speak and to write without restraint nor fear. This value implies freedom of speech, a free press, freedom of association, the very things that our Constitution enshrines. But it goes further. True freedom is exercised in a context. How free can a man or a woman be if they are oppressed by poverty? The two men who are honoring today have also fought long and hard for the conception of freedom as freedom from want. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope I have made it clear that bestowing the freedom of the city on Advocate Bizos and the Honorable Mlangeni has a particular resonance. They are men who have fought consistently for freedom and equality. Excuse me. Bit of a break. Excuse me, Madam Speaker, with your indulgence. Cheers. They are men who have fought consistently for freedom and equality. And our great city is proud to recognize their lifelong commitment to these values. We hope, without arrogance or presumption, to follow them in the path that they have opened for us, and to commit ourselves to working for personal and social freedom as they have done so outstandingly. Honorable Mlangeni and Advocate Bizos, as South Africans, we aspire to walk in your footsteps and realize the ideals and values that you represent. Advocate Bizos, you acutely state that in the democratic dispensation, the struggle has become far more nuanced, taking on different shapes in various sectors of society. Here are some of the problems and challenges that we need to deal with as a nation, taking leave from your experiences. Advocate Bizos, as a human rights activist, we need to listen to your words as racism and xenophobia threaten our society. This brings us to the issue of the national question. A lot still needs to be done to understand race relations in South Africa, especially as we emerge from the captivity of apartheid. Racism and class and gender discrimination is unfortunately very much present in South Africa to this day. As a nation, we need to unite in ensuring that the dream of an unracial South Africa is realized, freed from the scourges of racism and xenophobia. We come from an apartheid past where freedom of speech and of the press were under bitter attack. But today we live in a constitutional democracy built on the values of human dignity, equality, human rights, and freedom of speech and of the press. In that regard, we need to ensure that these freedoms remain a constitutional right for all South Africans to enjoy. Honorable Mlangeni rightly pointed out in 2012 that unless we address the challenges of poverty and unemployment, and I quote, our people will never be free. They will continue to feel imprisoned and reduced to their lives of impoverishment and suffering, close quote. We live in one of the most unequal societies in the world, where some of our people do not know where their next meal will come from. Even some of our children do not know their shoe size because they've never worn shoes. It is efforts such as the city's comprehensive food security program which continue the fight against these most severe forms of deprivation and hunger. Fundamental human rights such as freedom from poverty are the most powerful legacy of the struggle that our honorees fought for. Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank our recipients, the Honorable Mlangeni and Advocate Bezos, for accepting the Freedom of the City Award. Advocate Bezos, an unexpected visitor to your home may find you digging in your garden. They will certainly notice that the celebrated advocate is modest and straightforward. On my recent visit with the Speaker and other colleagues to your office, I was similarly inspired by your simplicity and humility, which banished all unnecessary formality from the conversation we had. I am equally humbled by the simplicity and modesty of the Honorable Mlangeni. We cherish the support we've received from him during our various charitable events, including our annual golf days. He is recognized as one of the oldest golfers in the country. And in spite of the many years serving our people as human rights activists, neither of you has clamored for high positions in government or elsewhere. We are inspired by such humility. As a city and as a nation, we look up to you, men of principle, guided by truth, justice, and honesty. We recommit ourselves to emulating you, confronting the challenges of our own day in the spirit of the towering example that you have set for us. You are indeed the living embodiment of the statement by the Reverend Martin Luther King that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor.
Address by leaders of political parties.
I would like to acknowledge the presence of our First Lady, Ms. Pilisile Twala Tau, and also the presence of the former Mayor, Ntate Mokgasi. From the ANC, I'll call upon Councillor Sithole.
Well, I'm not short. Mr. Mayor, as I walk here, the lady says, when I say to her, this is a long walk to freedom, she says, hey, the mayor also said so. Madam Speaker, the Executive Mayor, Chief Whip of Council, Chair of Chairs, is Talwandwe, Andrew Mlangeni, in absentia, represented by the kids, Sophie Dubrain, Comrade Kathrara, Deputy Minister Mhlengwa Mkhize, councillors, city manager, officials of council, the media, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed if I've left anyone. Madam Speaker, I don't know what to say because you and the Mayor have said all what I wanted to say. So I'll have to cut short my talk today. But what is interesting is that we did not caucus, but it's a trend that goes in all the heads of ANC cadres. They think alike. Because it's Gablenda, so you can be in London, but we'll talk the same language. And what's funny is that we did not caucus. In Mangaung today, they are honoring a white Afrikaner man called Bram Fischer. They unveiled a museum today, this morning. And on the other hand, we in Johannesburg today were honoring a white man and an African leader. The white man called Advocate George Bezos. We did not caucus with the Mangaung municipality, but it goes, it's a trend. It cut across. Is it not beautiful? A white leader and an African leader. As the African National Congress, we want to thank the visionary leadership and councillors of the city for honoring these two stalwarts whilst they are still alive. Now, when the African National Congress was formed, our forebearers gave Pixley Kaisa Kaseme a task of writing a paper, and he thought it would be better if he focused on the question of African unity. Now, we must remember that Africans at the time were faced with the problem of tribalism, disunity. Now, we want to say thanks to our leaders at the time who were visionary beyond their time. Now, to quote Pixley Kaisa Kaseme, he said, "The demon of racialism, the aberrations of the Xhosa and Fingo and Tongas between the Basutus and every other native must be buried and forgotten. It has shed among us sufficient blood. We are one people. These divisions, these jealousies are the cause of all our woes and of all our backwardness and ignorance today." Unquote. That was Piklika Isakasem. That was then. I was not even born at the time. Now, the trend of this principle of uniting South African people still continues today. And I quote, the current generation of the Bezos, of the Katradas, and so forth. "South Africa belongs to all who lives in it, black and white, and that no government can justly claim authority unless it is based on the will of the people," unquote. Now, this is a preamble of the Freedom Charter, a very important document adopted by all progressive and peace-loving South Africans. Now, we are proud as African National Congress to be part of this important occasion of honoring the two stalwarts who were not passive but active participants in the adoption of the Freedom Charter. This was in the thick of apartheid, yet they did not flinch from the principle of non-racialism. They carried and lifted this banner very high and with dignity. Today we are reaping the benefits of their unrelenting efforts. We know that they paid severely for this noble principle. Comrade Mlangeni sentenced to life imprisonment, George Bezos heavily ostracized. What was their sin? It was for believing in a principle that South South Africa belongs to all who lives in it, black and white. That was their only sin. Now, we as this generation of the African National Congress are fortunate and proud to be with you today and say to you, the struggle for a non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous South Africa is now in our hands. We will lift this banner high like you did, and we will not disappoint you. I thank you.
Thank you. And from the DA, it's Councillor Dagama.
The previous speech was short, so just adjust it a little bit.
I think of that.
Madam Speaker, Mr. Mayor, Advocate George Bezos, Honorable Andrew Mlangeni, Deputy Judge President, mayors and ministers, recipients of the freedom of the city. I'm going to repeat what was said in council last month, and you will soon find out why. On the side cover of Odyssey to Freedom, the following words set the scene. In October 1941, a young boy and his father disembarked at Durban Harbour from a large liner commissioned into emergency services by the Allies. They were Greek refugees from their German-occupied motherland. They spoke no English. They had little money and no prospects. They were heroes, but no one knew that. Nelson Mandela, in his foreword, concludes, George's autobiography, Odyssey to Freedom, is not only a personal account of an extraordinary life, but an invaluable addition to the historical record of our nation. Captured here by a man whose contribution towards entrenching the human rights that lie at the heart of South Africa's constitutional values is impossible to overrate. What follows are 600 pages chronicling the extraordinary life of George Bezos. It is little wonder that this childhood memories of German fascist occupation of his homeland and his adopted apartheid South Africa shaped his lifelong battle against discrimination of black South Africans by representative colonialist regimes. Best known for their part of Bram Fischer's Dream Team, George Bezos was under no illusion as to the seriousness of what pivotal trial in the history of this country. Fighting a regime that took no prisoners and brokered no dissent. It was literally a life and death contest with the odds completely against them. We are eternally in gratitude to those who were on trial, to Bram and his team, and to Advocate Bezos, who has dedicated his life and legal skills to the principles that should be at the core of every single South African. Fairness, justice, honesty, equality, and redress. In defending Andrew Mlangeni and his co-accused in the shaping of the Bill of Rights and the drafting of our Constitution, Advocate Bezos' legacy will endure for all time. In his autobiography, George speaks of a rock on a particular beach near his birthplace, birth village, from which he leaped into the boat that started his life journey, a rock upon which he has sat many a time contemplating his odyssey to freedom and it meaning we all need a rock, a foundation upon which to build our lives. For many of us, judged through his values, deeds and achievement, is that rock. Prisoner 46764 shared a cell adjacent to our most famous prisoner, number 4664. He spent 26 years on Robben Island, having said at the Rivonia trial that he too was ready to die to advance the struggle. Andrew Mukete Mlangeni did this willingly to serve a nation. On the 18th of July 2013 at the United Nations headquarters in New York, on the occasion of Nelson Mandela's International Day commemoration, Andrew Mlangeni reflected. The 8 of us received life imprisonment sentences that day on the 12th of June 1964. Whilst the charges laid down against us were for conspiracy and sabotage, the presiding judge at the time likened the crime to high treason. I thought of life imprisonment and what it meant. Did it mean that I would spend the rest of my life in prison only to be released as a corpse? Was there a chance that I might be released sooner? Would I maybe end up serving only 15 years? These were just the thoughts of a young Andrew Mlangeni. Andrew, like his co-accused, had an unwavering belief that one day South Africa would be free. In his last statement from the dock, he said, "That is all I have to say, except to add that what I did was not for myself, but for my people." By his own admission, Andrew has never been in the forefront of the ANC. "I have always been a backroom boy," he recalls in a documentary on his life and the role as a warrior for an equal democratic society and as a Rivonia trialist. In the documentary, he reflects, "You sometimes start to wonder whether taking part in the struggle for freedom was the correct decision. You go over all those things. Did I do the right thing? All those things come into your mind." History shows emphatically that Andrew made the right decision. He did the right thing. 3 years ago, former President Thabo Mbeki said at a memorial service to prisoner 46664, "There were people who made enormous sacrifices in their lives. This is a generation that bequeathed to us many values. I think principal among these values that they bequeathed the people is to serve the people, not to serve themselves." To my mind, Andrew's abiding contribution to our future in the arena of education, while in prison, he and his comrades fought tirelessly for the right to study in prison, a right only granted in 1967. Filling a journey that started as a child and interrupted by poverty and death in the family. Andrew gained a BA in 1979, despite the behavior of the prison authorities, and went on to complete his honor cum laude in 1986. 2 years ago, UNISA conferred the degree of Doctor of Literature and Philosophy for Andrew's unrelenting pursuit of social justice and resilience in pursuing education for himself and others. It has been by example that Isitandwanwe Mukete inspires our young leaders, students and aspirants academics. Both George and Andrew are living legacies, the bedrock and the moral compass of what we should set our sights for a racial, united, free and democratic nation. They are living legends. Madam Speaker, I can think of no better way to honour their lives, their sacrifices, their commitment to a present and a future we so often take for granted, then to concur upon Advocate George Bezos, SC, and Andrew Mlangeni, the honour of freemen of this golden city we call home. Thank you.